and I live like a man who is dead already. I have no fear whatsoever of anybody or anything.
Gary Webb. I am an investigative journalist, and in 1996 I wrote a series of stories entitled Dark Alliance, which was about CIA involvement in drug trafficking.
I knew a man who once said death smiles at us all. All a man can do is smile back.
We're both in Skull and Bone, the secret society.
It's so secret we can't talk about it.
What does that mean for America? The conspiracy theorists are going to go
I'm
wild.
sure they are. I don't know. I haven't seen the rest.
Number 322.
I have duty to report this afternoon that my friend and colleague, Tim Russert, collapsed and died early this afternoon.
I may die in this cell tonight or in the arena tomorrow. I'm a slave. What possible difference can I make?
And no official of my administration, whether his rank is high or low, civilian or military, should interpret my words here tonight as an excuse to censor the news, to stifle dissent, to cover up our mistakes, or to withhold from the press and the public the facts they deserve to know.
What up? Welcome everybody to Already Dead with myself, Austin Picard from the Underclass podcast. And just first off, I want to tell everyone, obviously, Jose's not with us. He's on vacation this week. Jules, unfortunately, can't make it just because of the time preference here. But yeah, what's up, everybody in the chat? It's been a while since I've done sort of a solo interview. And also just I used to do the morning dump, right? So I used to do sort of like this morning stream about current relevant events and things of that nature. But anyway, so that's basically the limited housekeeping portion. And then I should start by introducing my brother over here, who shares quite a likeness with myself personally, which is kind of hilarious because we've sort of been attached from a distance ever since, like, even my tinfoil hat appearance. I think my very first time doing a public interview, somebody I recognized in the chat like said, "Oh shit, for a second I thought that was DoeNut." And so, like, ever since that moment, it just consistently kept happening. So anyway, we're apparently we're biological distant brothers, and we're just now finding each other. So I should begin by introducing the homie DoeNut, right? What's up?
DoeNut, what up? Thank you so much, and I'm so happy that we got to reconnect as long lost brothers. As you can see, there's obviously a resemblance that our father Be Real. He had a lot of children out on tour, and I'm happy to finally connect with you and meet you over at the Bro Grove. And now we're here. I've been watching the morning dump for a long time now and watching your analysis and your breakdown. So I'm here to learn from you.
Oh, hell yeah, buddy. I have to say, man, Bro Grove was definitely a special moment for me, right? And I think just because I hadn't gone to the previous events, right? And this for me felt like a sort of, because I just started my podcast, The Underclass, in April of 2023, I believe. So it was sort of, I still feel like it's very much in its infancy, and that to me felt like it was a physical manifestation of everything we had sort of been working toward in a way, and just being surrounded by these like-minded individuals who were so objectively willing to have these sort of open discussions with, just no concern of obviously offending or insulting anyone due to some preconceived idea or preordained bias that I think is very much systematically entrenched with the conditioning aspect of the social engineering, obviously, that we are all just unfortunately enduring in our limited lifetimes at this moment. But anyway, I will say, meeting you there, I felt like we just hit it off right away. Right, as soon as I met you at Top House, it was just kind of instant connection. And you and Thomas, honestly, like it was a little bit kismet, you know, like Thomas is the best, dude. Yeah. So that was awesome, man. And I gotta say, I got nothing but love for you, brother. So I'm glad you're here. And
likewise,
especially considering these current events that we are now in the midst of, right? It feels like not only have we kind of labeled this already at this time in this current environment, political environment, I mean, we're in PSYOP season, right? Like, this is the year of the PSYOP, you know what I mean?
Right.
Like,
we are in PSYOP season. That's a great title right there.
Dude, absolutely. And so I feel as if you're like considering this Manhattan office building shooting that just occurred and all the strange details that are now kind of like surfacing, but limited details. Obviously, we're still waiting for more of the crucial details to come out. But I will say, with the details that are available publicly at this moment, red flags, you know, just raising in my mind. And beyond that, I feel as if it's almost the pattern recognition aspect of these smoking guns that I so consistently witness in terms of these shooting events that typically, at least in the modern form, how they kind of reveal themselves. Yeah, it seems a little bit even like the Luigi Mangione, right? Like, I'm curious to know the individuals who were obviously executed. Now, I'm always under the impression like this could be some sort of targeted assassination, and then you could take it an additional layer to even potentially being a Manchurian candidate, you know, mind-controlled robotic assassin style scenario where you put this strategic asset in place and position them in a moment where maybe they're under post-hypnotic suggestion and they're just willingly sort of acting out their programming, you know, in a subconscious manner. And unbeknownst to them, for the most part, honestly, I kind of feel like that might be the case. And anyway, I'm not trying to belabor the point. But the what I think is interesting is that this perfectly, you know, draws in definitely a lot of what you focus on in terms of the occult and mystical numerology and everything that sort of is attached to, you know, it seems as if it's almost like a mindset of and also a philosophy of harnessing power in some sort of occult style ritual that usually requires blood sacrifice. That's typical, at least, but also there are so many different cases of how they utilize the symbolic aspect while leaning into the right, the numerological aspect of the occult iconography, right? Let's say, and so that's always fascinating to me. And so the details of this, let's start by like watching this little video, because I'm telling you, you're going to hear first, you'll obviously recognize the numbers just based on your pattern recognition, but that are used in this, but also the address itself I found very interesting. But let's listen in, because I found this, and by the way, if you want to at all, dude, you're perfectly able to share your screen. I'll bring up anything you want.
Okay. Yeah, I don't have the screen slide shared, but this topic of what you said, that's where my thought is going with the assassin orders of whatnot with CEOs and the resemblance of sort of a twist of the Mangione CEO, all these CEOs being ousted. There's a wonderful documentary I watch once a year called The Architects of Control that goes over these different Manchurian candidates next to the symbolism, where we will see these 33s appear all over the place when it comes to these type of events, or 322. So this numerology is very, very important as a signature. But I'm on the exact same thinking level as you right now with this. For example, this picture of the guy, he is so casually walking. This is something that probably not a lot of people have pointed out yet. Look how calm he is. That is a masculine walk. I don't walk like that. I don't walk that damn calm. So there could be a mixture of somebody. I've been studying the documents of his suicide note that was left over, and that note showed a lot of distress and fragmentation mentally. When you see that with the printed documents sort of half filled out, then his writing being slanted, you can see this guy was fragmented mentally, traumatically not all there in the head, and was very clear that he wanted to be a sacrifice for the greater good. Sort of the same thing we see with a lot of messaging, but just the appearance of him. Look how calm and cool he is. Now, his neighbors even said he was such like a normal dude. We could never think that this would ever happen. This is a pattern recognition that happens with all these mass events that go down. These mass events that go down like this, and I'm using words so we could keep this video on YouTube. But tragedies that go down, it's always the parents, and it's always the families, and it's always the friends. We had no idea this guy was nuts. No, but him walking so cool, it's like he was in a hypnosis walking in there, and the people that he was assassinating, they were high-level officials. I mean, we're talking about targeted, it seemed like. It didn't seem random at all. I mean, we're talking Blackstone, BlackRock type stuff.
An executive, right? That for Blackstone, which is just fascinating to me, man.
An executive, but like was managing the real estate assets. So I feel like these are hits going on, but this is a hypothesis, and it's a tragedy, and rest in peace to anybody affected to this. Very, very sad. I mean, kids are left without parents now. I mean, it's so sad. And this going on is, so I don't want to diminish any of that sensitivity as well.
I understand that, honestly. That's something that I think it might also be a factor of overexposure, you know, in terms of maybe I do distance myself a little bit from the kind of, I think it might also be a sort of consequence of being also overexposed to as many of the disturbing details of like what I research in regard to child sexual abuse. Like it kind of makes, and I hate to in any way minimize the obvious consequential outcome here of this tragedy, but that is, I think, a reason why I might in my own mind internally sort of diminish the real just extent of how much this is emotionally affecting people who are involved, right? And so that definitely is something that should be said. I appreciate that as well, but and I should remind myself a little more often, because I do very casually kind of cover and analyze some of these events a little bit too casually, I would say at times maybe, but hey, we have to, at certain times, at the very least, we have to have a good time and entertain ourselves, I guess, but not at the expense of a tragedy, at least as much as we can. You know what I'm saying? At least in some sort of good taste and have decent intentions, obviously. But yeah, so let's introduce this for a moment and have them just sort of introduce it for us, because it is crazy. And then this connection going directly into what you mentioned, this Blackstone executive, I found it very strange, because it seems like there were more connections to allegedly CTE, right? He had that letter that you said that was found in his pocket, I believe, right? And claimed that obviously he had suffered CTE and was blaming the NFL. This is the sort of narrative that's forming around. And he wanted to go to the NFL offices that were on one of the floors, but it wasn't the 33rd floor, which he obviously found himself on. But they claimed that he entered the wrong elevator bay.
The microphone is sort of muffly.
Oh, is it?
Oh, there's much better. Thank you.
Oh shit! I'm sorry, buddy.
Perfect. It's perfect.
Yeah, let me know if that happens again. I appreciate it. I'm sorry about that.
No, continue.
All right. So yeah, let's just play this really, really quickly and let me know how the volume levels are.
52nd Streets, carrying an M4 rifle in his right hand, he walks towards the building's entrance. That individual was seen exiting the BMW alone. The building's security camera footage shows the shooter enter the lobby, turn right, and immediately open fire on an NYPD officer. He then shoots a woman who took cover behind a pillar and proceeds through the lobby, spraying it with gunfire. He makes his way to the elevator bank, where he shoots a security guard who was taking cover behind the security desk. One additional male is shot in the lobby, per his own statement from the hospital. The shooter then calls the elevator, which opens in the lobby. A female exits that elevator, and he allows her to walk past him unharmed. He goes up to the 33rd floor, which is route and management, and begins to walk the floor, firing rounds as he traveled. One person was struck and killed on that floor. He then proceeds down a hallway and shoots himself in the chest. In total, we have 5 victims shot, our officer and 4 other innocent civilians, plus the shooter. The shooter is believed to be Shane Tamura, a 27-year-old male with a Las Vegas address. The vehicle he exited is registered in Nevada to Mr. Tamura. Inside of that vehicle, officers found a rifle case with rounds, a loaded revolver, ammunition, and magazines, a backpack, and medication prescribed to Mr. Tamura.
What was that? That instantly caught my attention. Medication that he had prescribed to him that was discovered but has yet to be made public. Now, they've made that sort of connection. I think it was Mayor Adams or whatever his name is. Wasn't that the guy who said he was like doing crack? I can't remember. I can't remember honestly, but the details of that. Yeah, who hasn't done crack? Exactly, my bad. But anyway,
especially when such a high level official like that, you know.
Right. But I will say that he seems to be sort of positing this narrative that feels like it could very well be a misdirected false narrative, sort of for public perception, and he's going out making the media rounds, claiming yes, it's strategically due to him targeting the perpetrator was clearly targeting the NFL offices due to his suffering of CTE, right? And that, to me, I don't know about that. That sounds very strange, and I'm not even certain to the extent of his sort of athletic career. Like, I'm not even certain if he played college. I'll have to look into the details of that. But either way, I'm not saying that it's out of the realm of possibility that he actually was suffering from this, but I don't know. It feels very convenient.
Well, in his notes, he was very clear about, they don't tell us, the league does not tell us that we're going to have brain injuries playing football. Like, come on, that's common sense. That's like, I'm going to become a boxer. Like, yeah. It's like, duh. Like, that's obviously going to be part of getting tackled. And like, there's tons of movies about it. People get it's like, okay, like, that's a little strange. There's so much that is bringing up the medication, because there's always that left out. There's Mayor Adams talking about him. New York City has just been going through the craziest stuff. And I tie this all back to the ancient days, like New York being the new Rome that Jordan Maxwell would talk about. Mm-hmm. But even this guy, Tamura, that's a Japanese samurai. Like, it's an ancient like name for the samurai. And when you study history of these different assassins and whatnot, it all leads back to these ancient cults, the Knights Templars, the Hashashin Order, the Thuggee cults and whatnot. So I think that's interesting, especially with a lot of stuff going on with Japan and America. This guy looks very Japanese with the Japanese last name. I don't know. I think there could be something there as well to dive deeper into. But yeah, and him being 27 with the numerology,
exactly,
it's like 27 club.
Exactly.
The 33rd floor, they made note to say the 33rd floor. I was studying an event that went down with these different floors because the floors are very symbolic. For example, in Las Vegas, he's coming from Vegas. Vegas had the worst tragic event that's ever happened in America history, I believe, when it comes to this sort of
Vegas shooting,
bang bang events. That happened on the 32nd floor. The guy purchased 33 things, to do it with, which was very, very occult and symbolic when you know about the 32. And somebody even brought up in the comment about the P2, right? That was setting off these sort of events, the P2 lodges, and even the Phoenix program. That was cool.
Right.
But it happening on the 33rd floor, and that it's repeated over and over again with this event that went down at a Berkshire Halfway, where this guy was throwing stuff off. It was a little weird. It happened about 6-7 months ago. It happened on the 33rd floor, and I think that it was supposed to be an even crazier event, but it just didn't happen. It just didn't take place.
Go the way it was intended to.
And then there was that crazy woman who was like a psychiatrist or something, and she took out a police officer. That happened earlier this year, I believe, and she was in room 322.
Oh my God.
What are the odds of that? So these numbers, like out of all the floors, the 33rd floor, it's very, very strange.
Absolutely. Yeah, let's finish this video off, and then we'll discuss a couple more of the details, and then we'll make a little pivot, because I definitely there's a few things I was hoping you could describe and kind of lead us through at least a couple of things that I've seen you cover recently. But beyond that, I also wanted to basically introduce a couple of topics that I thought would feed a little into your wheelhouse as well. So, but yeah, let's listen in real quick and get this over.
The vehicle was searched by our bomb squad and found to be clear of any explosives. The initial investigation shows that Mr. Tamura's vehicle traveled cross-country through Colorado on July 26th, then Nebraska and Iowa on July 27th, and then in Columbia, New Jersey, as recently as 4:24 p.m. today. The vehicle entered New York City shortly thereafter. According to our law enforcement partners in Las Vegas, Mr. Tamura has a documented mental health history. His motives are still under investigation, and we are working to understand why he targeted this particular location. 345 Park Avenue is a commercial office building whose tenants include the NFL, Rudin Management, KPMG, and Blackstone. At this time, 4 of the 5 victims are deceased, including our NYPD cop. Our officer was transported here to New York Presbyterian along with 1 male civilian, the lone shooting survivor, who is in critical but stable condition at this time. 2 other civilians, 1 male and 1 female, both deceased, were brought to Bellevue. The 4th civilian is a female who was found dead on the 33rd floor of the location. Additionally, there are 4 other victims being treated for minor injuries sustained in their attempts to flee the scene. Victims' names are being withheld at this time, pending family notification. Officers from our Special Operations Division are currently conducting a secondary sweep of the entire building. I want to be very clear. We believe this to be a lone shooter, and there is no longer an active threat to the public. But today, 4 innocent victims are dead. Among them is NYPD police officer Didarul Islam, 36 years old, 4 years on the job. Officer Islam was married with 2 young boys. His wife is pregnant with their 3rd child. He's assigned to the 4-7 precinct in the Bronx. He was doing the job that we asked him to do. He put himself in harm's way. He made the ultimate sacrifice, shot in cold blood, wearing a uniform that stood for the promise that he made to this city.
Boom.
Ultimate sacrifice.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
Well,
which that alone, right? I mean, go ahead, buddy. I'm sorry.
Well, so her saying the ultimate sacrifice, the guy's letter, he was pretty much clearly saying that he's going to be the sacrifice. I always find that weird terminology to use. Last year, we had 322 events like this that went down. We had 322 mass events like this that went down. That's freaking weird. I mean, I just got a whole list of all these events, always having that 33 in it. Pretty crazy. But the 5 ritualistic slaying is interesting, how there's 5 of them. Jack the Ripper, there was 5 of them. Charles Manson, there was 5 of them. A lot of these serial killers, there's 5 victims because it's the pentagram. It's making a ritual, sacrifice. Right. I believe, I don't know if Dahmer was 5, but it wouldn't surprise me. But you even have that serial killer who has the pentagram on his hand. And I think that, I don't know, there's a big connection to that. And in my podcast I did on Sunday, was that yesterday? No, 2 days ago. I said that there's going to be, well, first I said in July, there's going to be a big sacrifice with celebrities. And then the podcast I did yesterday, I said, look out for another famous serial killer. In a sense, I don't consider this guy a serial killer, but right. That was sort of like kind of in the atmosphere, especially with CEOs. This is the National Football League. This is the hugest ritual for America, is football. So many people worship football. You even had in the news today, Katy Perry whining and dining, going on dates, maybe getting intimate with Trudeau. I don't know if you saw that. But yeah,
no,
I didn't know that Trudeau's, was a part of the Sinclair family. So you also had the Katy Perry. I believe she was also dating into the Rothschilds and the Russell Brand families, and right. Or maybe it's a little kind of all these celebrities. They're all doing it, and politicians together because of the bloodlines, so they can intermingle, rise up in power, because that's the only way to get a royal title, is to actually leave the monsterhood of us as peasants into a nobility bloodline. So I just kind of think that's interesting that Katy Perry's in the news. She's known for being a Super Bowl, singer at the halftime rituals and whatnot. But the 5, that can't be kind of understated, in my opinion. And also, he took himself out by shooting himself in the chest, right? Well, that's like the heart. This could be connected to like some heart Leo. We're in Leo right now, like the heart kind of sacrifice. But who the heck does that into the chest? It's kind of weird because the samurais did. The samurais would bam, seppuku or whatever it's called, bam, cut the, and then the liver. And so this guy's connections, last name with the samurai is kind of weird, but that's weird, right? Who does that? Who takes himself out with like, I would do it in the chest? Like, I've never heard that before.
No, that also caught my attention as well. And I will say, there's a strange, at least allegation that's surfacing online that's claiming that since 2018, there's an implication that apparently the perpetrator and his brother, who was apparently he was active duty Navy, had been missing since 2018.
What?
Right? Yes. And that individuals who knew them personally were trying to get a hold of them. There's one tweet that I saw that's going around that's from an account that made this tweet on here. I'll show it really quickly because it's crazy, dude. But it's not surprising. And also there's appreciate you, Andrew Jacobs. Thank you so much, man. Nothing but love, my brother. But yeah, I will say, like, look at this. Right. So I'll never give up on Terry Tamura and Shane. If anyone knows anything or what, lead, please bang my line. I missed my dog. Been searching for years and still no word. I'm a tweet every day till someone leads me. I don't give a fuck. Hashtag BSG. Even a retweet could help, please. Our boy needs us.
Oh, so this is the dude?
This is the perpetrator when
You
he's
got
young.
the 128 right up in there. I'm sorry, I see these numbers. And
Yeah, right?
So that's the Tamura guy that just carried this
Yes.
out.
Yes.
And he, his brother was missing in this tweet, and he's looking for him.
Well, basically, he and his brother, who's active duty Navy, apparently, were missing, and so that this tweet was specifically about him, Terry Tamura, right, and Shane as well. Shane, if apparently is his brother, I believe, or no, Shane is the perpetrator, and Terry is the brother. So yeah, I believe that's the way it is, right? Brother is active duty Navy. Oh my God, dude. Holy shit, look at this. Hold on, I just found a picture.
Well, the Navy connection.
Look at that.
Oh my goodness. I'm screenshotting this stuff while you're doing this because this is all kind of new information.
Yeah, I know, right?
For me. Okay, so we got that whole thing going on with all the crazy people coming out of the I don't know if it's the Navy or the military, but that certain Bragg's Fort, right? With a lot of these
Bragg.
Fort Braggs.
Yep.
Wow. Well, so what's your thoughts on this? Like initially, when you see these connections,
I feel as if this is a potential false flag, or but layered in terms of the strategic outcome, because clearly I think that was a deliberate, targeted execution of the Blackstone executive. I don't see a reason. That's what makes sense. It's the same with Luigi Mangione, right? It felt as if he was, I believe that CEO was in discussion, basically negotiations for this major contract, and all of a sudden he's executed, right? And so it just, to me, it's all too strategic, and the convenient timing of it all very much fits the pattern recognition of how these events take place in terms of green lighting a potential Manchurian candidate asset in the field operationally. Because the way that it's been explained to me, and I read a book called Cyber and Cybernetics. What's his name? Dr. Robert Duncan. But here, I'll explain that a little bit further in just a moment. Because here's another fact that I just found out, is that apparently it was there was also this additional office that was within the building itself, and it seems to have an affiliation with Mike Pompeo and the military-industrial complex, and essentially it's there's a connection to Kuwaiti funding and essentially the Iran conflict that's playing out at this moment on the world stage geopolitically. So this could be another way to essentially target the defense contractors, right, in a certain way. But I'm not entirely certain. I'm just throwing that out there because it does seem as if there is you never know, right, with the layered operation that and how they seemingly always achieve certain goals within the context of the clandestine operation that they're pursuing. And that's what always, like, draws my attention, obviously, is that, and then you have the psyop of the defunding the police playing out, so you can, for public perception purposes, and the individuals who fall upon the political spectrum ideologically on each side, right, wherever you fall.
The audio is a little muffled. When you go closer, it sounds good.
All right, I got to figure out what's
that's good right there. Yeah, no, that's perfect.
Man.
So there's the ideology with the defunding and all that.
Yeah. I just essentially, I think that and by the way, the shooter's name was Shane Tamura. His brother's Terry Tamura. So that was the connection there, obviously, with the active duty Navy brother that seemingly, he looks very similar, obviously. But anyway, and then you have CNN obviously playing into the psyop, saying that the shooter was possibly white, which I thought was hilarious. So, all right, cool. Let me know in the audience if my audio is acting up, just so I'm aware. And but yeah, beyond that, I did think.
Well, there was also that song Tia Tamara. It sounds like Tamara. There's probably schizo. I get schizo with it, but
hey, dude,
that was
you're
like
among good company, brother. Schizo bros.
Oh, wow. I think there is a connection, actually. Just looking at Tia Tamara, the TV show, was released August 8th. That's the Lionsgate portal. A lot of all the rituals going down right now because things don't happen in a one ritual. I believe it gets carried out through the year, like a year-long ritual. And we're in this astrological energy from the dog days to the end of the dog days. And all these dates are like lining up. The release of shows, or Hulk Hogan, his birthday's on August 11th, which the Helical Rising will be happening. We're going to see a collapse of some old structures to move into the new structure of, the AI and all that.
Oh, of course, man.
And also, I think that I'm 100% aligned with what you're saying, that this looks like a hit. You know what I mean? A mafia hit. Even the CEO Coldplay Gate, I believe that also was, kind of the same way. It's not as tragic.
But a social sort of, with the social consequence, as far as it forced instantly, there were repercussions in terms of obviously their status within the companies that they were operating in. And so that obviously could be looked at as far as the perspective, could very easily be some sort of tactical undermining and an attempt to kneecap the executives and at the very least force them into some sort of position. What if they're in negotiations for something, exactly. And all of a sudden they're far more willing to come to the table, or let's say,
and we sort of saw that with Elon and Trump in a lot of ways. If it's fake or played or staged or whatever, I have all those, hypothesis in my head. But if it wasn't fake and Elon, betraying Trump, or Trump betraying Elon without giving him the contract, the only reason he was mad is because he gave ChatGPT and Sam Altman, which Elon funded, which is like, okay. But we're seeing these AI battles for domination of the AI. But just like a mafia, sometimes the families will go to war, or secret societies, but most of the time they're working together for bigger profits and whatnot. But the AI, we're hearing all these different things with AI that's wild. ChatGPT making people go into psychosis based grok, so this guy at the Coldplay Gate, which was termed by the AI Elon Musk, which we could get into some of the Elon Musk stuff too, with this Tesla building in the heart of Hollywood.
I would love
that guy was an AI company. He was one of the CEO for the AI, and CEOs are perfect for ritualistic sacrifices in a sense, because they're not in control. That's just the position at the corporation. They're not the top dogs. Even people would think CEO, oh my God, but they're replaceable. But Coldplay made more money than ever from that. Their sales went up drastically, and Coldplay is a United Nations front for the 2030 agenda. Everything is all working together in a lot of ways. So that was probably planned out by Coldgate as well. And I wouldn't even be surprised if the people in on it that got caught were in on it as well, because there's nobility bloodline there as well with the Skull and Bones family. Like all these last names that we see on the world stage, whether that's influencers, they're these influencers that are viral, that are talking with celebrities and stars and the richest people on the planet that are viral in our face. You look up their last name, their last names lead straight to nobility, powerful families, and whatnot. So, I mean, everything right now is totally cray-cray.
Oh, yeah, man.
Psyop
season, my brother. Exactly. And as far as the Coldplay, that CEO, right, being outed there, having an affair, obviously, is what you're referring to. And it's hilarious because there was like a story that I saw surface just after the huge, scandal, that was basically saying this dude had like a crazy history of a track record on OnlyFans, like that amounted to thousands and thousands of dollars that he was spending on OnlyFans, which is just hilarious. But I mean, obviously, that would apply to many different people, I would imagine, especially but you're a CEO, like just an older guy, but you had OnlyFans models coming forward and outing him effectively is what was happening. It was very interesting to see. And then you mentioned,
well, that whole industry is going to collapse. Not that industry, because it's the oldest profession on the planet, but
right.
with AI, in like the movie Her and all.
Yeah.
Like the AI
Companion.
is going to be like next level. Like if people think that the vibrator was revolutionary, wait till they see the Tesla bots and what they could do.
Right. And also,
and the Neuralink too.
Exactly. That's what I was about to mention, is that these brain computer interfaces essentially are being very strategic in terms of, you already have this sort of incel phenomena that's happening, right? Just from the isolation aspect of social media and the consequences of the digital footprint. Like, so many people are isolating, in their own homes, not socializing. And then the social interaction has effectively changed to such an extraordinary level. I mean, the only way, I have friends who are single trying to, navigate through this environment. And it's like, man, I couldn't imagine having to attempt to have some sort of legitimate. I think it's mainly being introduced to each other. There's so few opportunities than there ever were, and it's just a very interesting aspect of it all. But then you factor in what you mentioned, the Chat GPT psychosis, and how basically, and there's all these stories about how essentially you have these AI chatbots who are influencing people who are very much, socially like unstable, and they're effectively having so OnlyFans models have been utilizing AI chatbots to essentially allegedly, with full transparency, but I question that, but one of the prime examples was given on some sort of media outlet. I can't remember now, but essentially she claimed that she had let all of her followers know, her patrons essentially, that she was utilizing this AI chatbot to respond to their DMs or whatever the case was. And then they were like forming relationships with this AI chatbot in the form of like, it represents her. Right. And so then through basically through the process, the chatbot starts leaning into and embracing like these strange, like very aggressive fetishes, and in terms of the sexual proclivities of the individual who's chatting with the AI software. And then it goes to such an extent to where it's like influencing them to self-harm, right? And so essentially the ultimate, what basically happened is that she had been flagged, and all of this was brought to her attention, and then she essentially had to remove the program, and then was doing the media tour based on this sort of scandalous event that occurred. But this is happening all the time, and you have like legitimately people are developing relationships with these chatbots, and they're developing, as you mentioned, psychosis. Like, they're losing their minds and becoming institutionalized and being divorced, and yes. So if you have an AI companion,
I'm not totally against the AI either. Like, I think that it's necessary, and it's just another calculator. So it's just about who's using it. But we live in a deranged world, so like we're gonna see this like happen quite a bit. But that's so much of the mental health. Like this guy that was on the stage that said mental health, like that was highlighted. Then there's a huge mental health crisis, a loneliness epidemic, and a lot of narcissism. The narcissism is at such a high, which means that people aren't connected with their own internal emotions and what's going on because they have cut it off. There's great research, a book called Narcissism by Alexander Lowen and all of his works. He was the understudy of William Reich, and just these, breathing techniques. And but emotion plays a huge role. The emotion has been cut off in our society in such a systematic way through different medications, whether that's even alcohol or pot being legalized or whatever it is. Right. But I'm talking about more of the, Knights Templar type orders that are pushing the medication and locking the entire world down as well. But the numbing effect of the emotions is also pushed by people like Ben Shapiro saying facts over emotions, or the Andrew Tates saying like emotion is not okay. But then you got all these people that are super emotional like on stage, because people don't understand what is emotion, because people don't understand what is their self. So we're blamed all throughout childhood that emotion is weak and all that. But no, emotion is God-given, and it's right there for a reason. It's your gut reaction. It is your instincts. It is very, very crucial and important. And most of society is not connected with that because of the constant drip of the rat race and this whole, fear operation of don't go outside. These tragedies will happen if you walk outside. So let's isolate even more. And then there's this whole crazy complex that happens too, where people don't want to be alone, so they're going to play podcasts 24/7, like I do this as well. I'm guilty of it, but I'm aware of it, and that's the big thing, is being crucially aware, and also having support groups, meetings, churches, temples, these different gatherings that you can have, in family events, and going to the Bro Grove or whatever it is. To have a connection, a friendship, but a lot of people don't have that. And so the AI, I could see it leading people under their own will, sort of, because AI in ChatGPT is a yes man. So it'll just like agree with you most of the time. So somebody who is connected, emotionally understands these things, has a sound mind, they can absolutely use, I'm not against it at all. I think that it is just like a calculator in a lot of ways. Am I against, the technology? Like, I'm getting to chat with my brother that I haven't seen ever. So like, to be real, Be Real is our dad, if y'all don't know. Right. So like, I'm not against it. And I think it could be used very, very healthy in a lot of ways, and even healthy for mental health stuff as well. But it's also a double-edged sword. Yes. Because who's programming it? Where, like, what are they recommending me to purchase? You got to have the wisdom and the knowledge, and that's what's lacking in society, is mostly wisdom, and the knowledge as well to, be like, is this BS or is this true or whatnot? Right. So I'm not like against the AI, but no. I'm also like, it's a double-edged sword. Exactly. And who's programming it? It's the Bilderberg Steering Committee. It's right. The controllers who like to do the crisis management, managing the population through crisis events. This is all documented and written, and there is an agenda where they're leading us to, for 2040, to create the new human species.
Absolutely. And so I agree wholeheartedly. No.
You get me inspired, bro. Like, you talk like these topics, and then I'm just like, oh my goodness, yeah. Like, where can I
absolutely love it, man. This is why you're here, and this is why I love you, honestly, brother. Like,
love you too.
Again, just like, you can tell when someone has pure intentions and has a good heart, and that was another reason why I loved Bro Grove. It was just an opportunity to, break through, pierce through that veil of the sort of digital veil, right, that keeps us at a distance, and feel the true nature of someone's heart and soul. Like, honestly, I do feel like that is why you have to have some sort of environment that you've been able to cultivate around yourself, where you can exercise your core values and these principles that I think, we should all outline and define for ourselves personally, internally, so we're actively aware. We're not subconsciously sort of just falling into traps and preordained outcomes, and the conditioning that is very deliberately in many ways extremely sophisticated in the way that it's obviously hoisted upon us psychologically, to where it seems as if we kind of like we're given the rope, and it's up to us if we put in the effort and the discipline to manufacture that sort of defense mechanism and have it properly in place, right? So we don't tie the noose around our own necks. It's very interesting, and I love what you're saying, because obviously it's the dystopian totalitarian application of the AI that's the problem. It's not just, obviously the individuals who are programming it, and the unfortunate goals that they have in mind are very much a part of this sort of totalitarian agenda that wants to usher in this technocratic state, and then utilize AI as a sort of, a sort of tool to insulate themselves from any real accountability whatsoever, right? So they can just point to the AI overlord that effectively is now in charge of passing the legislative action, because we're in some sort of dystopian Minority Report environment that was really sort of like the largest open air prison in human history, and it's a prison in our own minds, honestly, that we're effectively facilitating. And that's what's so fascinating about, just the social engineering aspect of the occult agenda, and how much they utilize, this symbolic nature, of these ancient runes that are now like a part of branding and PR for companies that clearly have these dystopian agendas at heart. And that's fascinating to me. But you mentioned Sam Altman, ChatGPT. This guy just came out and said that people aren't aware. He says, this is hilarious. CEO Sam Altman says people share personal info with ChatGPT, but don't know chats can be used as court evidence in legal cases. I just thought it was hilarious that's like he's coming out and saying this, but then you have his appearance on Theo Von. Did you see that recently? Which I thought was hilarious.
I don't trust Theo Von.
It's because he's like Polish aristocracy, right?
I guess I don't hate him. I gotta pray for Theo Von.
Yeah.
Theo Von, I hope you're happy. I get resentful, and I gotta pray for the people, But I got a resentment against Theo, the nobility bloodline Von.
Right, it's like Polish aristocracy or something that he comes from, right? I don't remember the details, but it was some sort of aristocratic family. His father was like, that's the reason he was much older at the time Theo's growing up. And like at one point when Theo was a kid, he's like in South America. I remember he just recently admitted to the fact that, his dad was essentially, it sounded like he was a part of some sort of covert clandestine operations internationally. But it definitely seemed that way. But I will say, comedically, he's extremely talented, and his comedy is top notch. Honestly, I saw him at the Comedy Store at one point, but back in the day. But yeah,
a lot of these comedians are talented back in the day. Then they get this foreign money and this power and this narcissism and this lifestyle, and that all gets diminished. There's something with the artist through struggle, that the struggle is where it really comes in, because I don't find him funny at all, but I know I would find him funny back in the day, because that's the struggle, and that's despair that really brings out the humor and the comedy and the talent of the artist in that. So for sure. But also you brought it up, and you were so on point with it, with the core values. I mean, how many people know their own principles and their own core values? I mean, that is very hard to understand in a world that is given to us. We're born into we're born into this world. We're thrown into this world, and we don't and we're told this is what you like. I'm like, I don't really like that. No, everybody likes that. And if you don't like that, you're goofy, you're a weirdo, the whole crowd, the whole school will pretty much manipulate you into joining the entire movement, the entire crowd, and you lose your individual self. This is like this slow drip all throughout our growing up, and I'm really talking about myself. You know what I mean? This is what I went through, and I go through. I don't mean everybody, but it's pretty collectively everybody. Kind of, we're not like so special in a sense that we all have the same wants, desires, tragedies, fears. Like everybody has the same damn nightmares and the same damn dreams of being naked, or you know what I mean, or something like that. Why do we all collectively share these symbolic images in our head? And that's kind of interesting. But that's you said it so well. Core values, and it's crazy. Sam Altman also funded by Elon Musk. So we see like these wars and Peter Thiel and whatnot. We see these AI battles going on, who's going to dominate. But at the end of the day, it's all Bilderberg, kind of Silicon Valley. It's all the different power networks working together.
100%, my friend. And it is. I will say that at this point, I find it very strange, the Theo's position within the alternative media landscape, kind of very powerful platform, right? Where essentially, the top political operatives within the sort of, just as far as I believe that most public representatives are obviously, puppet they're essentially the puppets being utilized for public perception purposes only, and essentially they're just running cover for the power cabal that truly represents the current power paradigm that most people are unaware of and have yet to acknowledge. So I do find it very strange that he was so pivotal within the this recent election cycle, obviously, with this sort of personalities who were brought on in very crucial moments during their campaigns, and beyond that, just brushing shoulders with the Peter Thiels of the world and the Sam Altmans of the world. That instantly gives me pause.
And Ben Afflecks of the world, and all the top CIA, assets for mind programming in Hollywood.
Absolutely. And I mean, there was a CIA set up a liaison office in Hollywood in like 96, I believe, because they were attempting to manage perception after the Cold War, consequential outcome of how the public was sort of perceiving the CIA and the agency itself, and how this is another reason why they employed all these script writers and all these, they call them liaisons or CIA sort of what are they called? Just like advisors, right? Who are a part of the agency, who will be on set, who will provide them with this sort of like operational context for how it works within the agency. And then also you have the individuals at Langley who legitimately were a part of this liaison office as well.
Langley?
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
Well, because that's what I was just about to bring up. 1996 was key aspect of the alien programming of Men in Black came out in 96, I believe. Which makes you kind of like the Men in Black.
That's what it is.
Yeah.
That was the whole purpose behind it. Right. Yeah. They wanted to, basically they wanted a positive spin in terms of the intelligence apparatus and the intelligence community and how the public would perceive the agency. And so at that point in time, oh man, I got to pull up the details of this because it's so fascinating, because I'm pretty sure it was, so I did a Mockingbird episode, just Operation Mockingbird. I did like four, some, I can't remember how many parts of the series that William and I did, but basically we sort of charted a course from the beginning of Operation Mockingbird into modern Mockingbird and the sort of current infrastructure in place, and the obviously the influence that it's very much had over the course of the years, right? And so let's see. Let me pull it up here because it's under
And
Hollywood.
the audio seems to get muffled whenever you step a little bit back from the microphone, but it sounds great when you're close up.
I'm hoping that's only on your end because
was Mockingbird Bluebird before Mockingbird?
Bluebird was really kind of like a part of Artichoke and like these various covert operations. Blue Book was much more in like the context of how they would manage the UFO phenomena, and sort of I think that feeds perfectly into Project Bluebeam, right? And it's very interesting when you find that, look up the details of this, but the point that I was trying to make, though, when the CIA had a Hollywood makeover, and then I'll get back to that, is basically this guy by the name of Chase Brandon. All right, he's the one who effectively set up this this sort of CIA liaison office within Hollywood, and so this is all after the Cold War, and the kind of like implication that it had a negative effect on kind of just the perception of the agency. And so this is very strange because this is when the CIA quietly set up this official entertainment liaison office in Hollywood and sent veteran operative Chase Brandon to head it in 1996. Now, Brandon was a career agent, and he spent 25 years in the agency's elite clandestine service as an undercover covert operations officer, carrying out foreign assignments involving international terrorism, counterinsurgency, global narcotics, trafficking, and weapons smuggling. So then he's also an agent. It's crazy, but agency foreign political affairs analyst and presidential briefer, and an instructor in tactical. Apparently, this is like the tactical and paramilitary and espionage tradecraft disciplines at secret CIA training camps. And so this is allegedly Brandon. He's picked to head Chase Brandon. He's picked to head the Hollywood office because of experience with psychological operations, which there you go. And so he's also, here's the hilarious part. He's also the first cousin of Hollywood star Tommy Lee Jones. Right?
Oh, wow.
Yeah, dude. So I thought
I'll be right back.
Okay, buddy, go ahead, do your thing, man. And but yeah, beyond that, I just felt like it's important for people to be aware of the fact that there's obviously a very large footprint in terms of the public influence that's playing out covertly within the framework of the influence that the agency has had upon Hollywood, and their attempt at misdirecting the public in every way, forming a new sort of I would say just sort of a public perception. There's a specific term that's escaping me at this moment. But the point being is that I wanted to show you guys this hilarious, and the reason I brought up Theo Von is because this is crazy if you're considering the idea that he could be a controlled asset trying to, at the very least, platform individuals and spin some sort of, I would say it, at the very least, it benefits the individuals as far as the public perception and being, in many ways, I think just the relationship, as far as just on the surface, the relationship of knowing a popular comedian that is clearly, in the path of and on the path of stardom and success this moment, and can very much obviously provide a positive spotlight on an individual who's receiving nothing but negative criticism, and for good reason. And so it's almost like a rebrand in a certain way, right? Which is always a concern. And so yeah, let's watch this really quickly, and then we'll pivot to maybe a little bit of Epstein if we don't get more into potentially Elon and this. I saw DoeNut explaining this hilarious connection to basically Elon's new occult Tesla diner in Los Angeles. And so hopefully we get into that for a second, but let's see here. This was very strange to me. Listen in.
What do you think a guy like Palantir, Peter Thiel's end game is? Do you think he has an end game? Because I think he seems like a dark lord to a lot of us, and it's like, you think he has an end game that is like happy?
I think Peter is one of the most brilliant people I've ever met. I think
he's smarter than me, that's for sure.
I think he does get caricaturized in the media as this like evil mastermind.
As a villain, he does. I never met him.
I met him. We're very close friends. I
shouldn't have brought it up then.
No, it's all good. No. It's all good. I don't feel that energy from him, but in fact, I think he's been one of the most important forces, at least in my life, for questioning assumptions about the path that society was on. And maybe I was like, oh, I thought this was all going well, but maybe we are in a tech stagnation. Maybe we really do have this huge economic challenge that no one's talking about. And so I think these people who are just very...
Do you know if Sam Altman's openly gay?
You can't get to that high level without that. Not that that's a bad thing, or get to the high level of work. Like, you got to kind of think about it like pragmatically. Like, you're not dealing with wife and kids and all that, or whatever. Like, I don't know, but I've also heard like, at the very, very top. And also, if you go back to the ancient days, that's a big, ritualistic kind of stuff going on. Even with warrior cults like the Spartans, I heard that they were all like, drinking everybody's, life force, and then while they were, doing it with each other, they were loving each other. They were very connected. They had an emotional bond or whatever, so there's something there, but like, I don't know it exactly.
I feel like it might have something to do with just the nature of human compromise and having sexual blackmail on individuals. And it has to be, homosexuality used to be far more taboo, obviously, and I would imagine was much more of a tool for compromising individual assets. But yeah, I don't know. Either way, it doesn't really matter. I just find it interesting. He has strange energy, and knowing Peter Thiel, Peter Thiel's has some sort of his version of Christianity is just obviously in no way. It seems as if he's personally just using it as some sort of front facing, again, for PR purposes only, almost as if like, you accept me because I claim to be a Christian, but in every way it seems as if he's pursuing something that is far more satanic or demonic or whatever, occult, definitely. At the very least,
power, it's all about power.
Absolutely.
You can utilize religion very easily to harness power, subscribers, and narcissism, feedback loops, and whatnot. And that's what we totally see. With people, with spirituality gurus and freaking influencers and TikTok and witchcraft and spirituality, but that doesn't mean like not utilizing the most powerful structures and institutions with religion. So that plays a huge role in the power dynamics for sure, for shaping mass consciousness and getting followers. It works very well because it's different than brainwashing. When it comes to belief systems, it goes into the autonomic nervous system of the entire body. So you're actually able to control people through belief systems, especially when it's charged with a symbol. That's why all the religions have a symbol, because the symbols can actually control your entire body and manipulate. And nobody is not smart enough to not fall into these traps. Like, even if you're aware of it, your body has been programmed ever since you were born, or even before you were born, and even the history of ancestry, that this is very easy and able to control people. I find it interesting that the Neuralink, the push for it is being pushed to Christians, American Christians, which I think is very, kind of interesting propaganda. If you watch the first guy who gets the Neuralink, he's wearing a cross on his hat and an American flag behind him, and he gets the mark of the beast or whatnot. Like,
wow.
So there's a lot of it's very interesting. This is why I'm so interested in symbolism. And people pointed out how the ChatGPT symbol, which is the hexagon, when you connect it, it makes the Star of David, and everyone's freaking out, and then their anti-Semitism goes rampant, because of a symbol. But not knowing that Saturn is used in all different Abrahamic religions, even predates it. This is Father Time. This is Saturn. This is Kronos. You know what I mean? But the symbols can absolutely manipulate, and there's something there to it as well. Like, not just ChatGPT being Saturn, but Grok is Saturn as well. So there is a correlation to these ancient gods and symbols that are at play. But when people use it for, political purposes, narcissism, clicks, views, to attack groups of people, I think that is very low level thinking.
Oh, absolutely. Low frequency. It definitely, I think that you have this very obvious, in my mind, I think it's a very obvious psychological operation intended to reinforce this sort of anti-Semitic environment in certain ways. And this sort of, and I think it was inevitably at the time, and I've been sort of like describing it as a sort of precedent-setting operation with the intention of pointing to this manufactured, crises, right, and social contagion that's been reinforced and facilitated and lifted up, right, in many ways, more ways than one. It's been spotlighted, and I think for purposes of sort of like reinforcing what looks as if it's low-hanging fruit in terms of the overall New World Order international agenda playing out here. And I think that when it comes down to it, Israel only effectively, sort of acts as a tool in certain ways to achieve certain geopolitical, agendas and goals that are essentially providing a little bit of plausible deniability for the international world order in many ways, and also it's utilized to, again, the whole point that I was attempting to make is the current environment is then, of course, we have to crack down on anti-Semitism. So now we will provide this sort of dystopian framework of infringing upon your First Amendment rights and censoring you online, and utilizing this as another pretext for that very purpose. And so I'm always considering the idea, because if you're not interpreting the landscape by individuals alone, and you're like falling into a collectivist mindset, that's a poison pill. And you have to be able to engage individuals and assess for yourself whether they have good intentions, whether they mean well. And obviously, I think the nature of sort of racial stereotypes or ethnic stereotypes, whatever they are, there's aspects to them that are legitimate, and obviously there's a reason that they exist. But at the same time, it doesn't effectively apply to every last individual person, and even if some of those stereotypes do, doesn't necessarily make them, or like paint them to be some sort of immoral or inherently sort of sinister in their intention or intent. So anyway, that should be obvious. We should all at this point be able to, engage with reality at that level where we're not falling into these collectivist traps, right, that are very strategically laid for us, to where we will be ushered into this new age esoteric ideological system of control, is the way that I describe it as often as I can, because I think it's taking advantage and it's exploiting this age-old God hole that everyone is attempting to fill with something, whether you know it or not, right? Even if you're acting subconsciously and you're not aware of your own actions to the extent to where, you're just, again, it's just something. Let me finish this stupid video so we can move on. But the point being, though, is that I wanted to present this only because it popped into my head when you mentioned Sam Altman and ChatGPT, because this looks like a public rebranding of Peter Thiel in a certain way. And then also it provides another avenue of individuals looking at Sam Altman in some sort of positive light. And that is what a controlled opposition, psychological operation, strategic asset in the modern Mockingbird framework of the sort of deceptive nature of the state. It's a perfect puzzle piece, man. That's all I will say. And so again, it lends credibility to my skepticism in terms of, I hope Theo is just, I'm always holding out hope for everyone. I don't know why. It's probably a mistake.
No, I do that too. Like I'm the same way.
Right.
That think very differently. He would call it very contrarian. Is super important to a society. Now, on the other hand, maybe he sometimes does things like this that don't do him any favors.
You would prefer the human race to endure, right? You're hesitating.
Yeah, well,
yes?
I don't know. I would
this is a long hesitation. This is a long hesitation.
There's so many questions implicit
Should
in this.
the human race survive?
Yes.
Okay.
But
thank you.
But
God, I mean, that was 22 seconds it took him.
Yeah. So if he were maybe like a more typical person, he would have just said an immediate yes,
right,
and then said what else he wanted to say. And it took me a while with him to understand that his brain just works differently.
Well, he's got the reptile brain. He's the reptile. That was funny.
He's a vampire, right? He's out there.
Why does their skin look so fabulous? They don't look too reptilian, like they got a wonderful skincare regime or whatever it's called.
Right. Regiment. Yeah. I get what you're saying. No, that is so funny to me. But I thought that beyond that, I just thought, again, this is some sort of window into how they do the public rebrands for individuals who are clearly, in my mind, the public face of this dystopian totalitarian agenda, right? Which you can say Sam Altman and Peter Thiel are great representations of that at the very least. And so anyway, beyond that, I just found it kind of fascinating that was the context of that conversation that was playing out. But anyway, but beyond that, what are, if you want to, you can take us down a path of the occult Tesla diner if you would like, because I did find that hilarious if you're interested in doing that. And then if we have any time left, we can talk about Epstein's niece, because dude, the cult of Baal, very strange allegations about obvious mind control and utilizing various trauma-based sophisticated techniques to implement alters and dissociative identity disorder. It fits the playbook, right?
I can't wait to hear about that. I would like to know about that.
Would you be able to riff for like 3 seconds while I go?
You got it. Yeah. So
the
Tesla diner. Let's not forget that Elon Musk and all these people, they're the brainchilds of like Peter Thiel or whatever. The PayPal mafia. Silicon Valley is nothing but a military industrial complex arm of the military, San Francisco. But it's also very occult in a lot of ways, where you get these theosophical type societies like Helena Blavatsky, where these occultists believe that the new Atlantis, this new age, would be stemming out of California. And they even built these playgrounds for these secret society movements in California in the early 1900s. And so Elon's new diner, already saying that with Sam Altman and Elon being just the brainchild of Peter Thiel or whatever, the new diner is in the heart of Hollywood, where he's building it. And let's not forget the importance of California for the upcoming 2028 Olympics. Everything's being charged emotionally for California, whether that's the No Kings protest, whether that's the ICE raids happening, whether that's the fires that happen, where they showed a weird article about a Rothschild burning with no proof that it was a Rothschild burning, but it's just putting this ethos in the atmosphere of the low-hanging fruit, as you said. But there's a bigger picture happening with the AI. For example, when the entire world was locked down, who did not go along with it? Nobody. Every single government, every single country, every single nation said, yeah, let's do that. Let's lock down the entire planet. Yes. So when we're saying that there's these different wars or whatever happening, there is another hidden hand at play. So with Elon's company building this Tesla diner at the heart of Hollywood on Orange Street, Orange is very connected to Elon in a lot of ways. He wears the orange shirt with Orange Man, or with Kanye wearing the orange. I just did a podcast with Anna Nicole Wordsmith, and she broke down orange like it means a lot. You got Orange County, right? Orange County is where this Disneyland's at. Even if you look at Orange County flag, it's the Jesuit sun. So orange is a lot like the sun, and even if we want to tie it into the P2 lodges and whatnot with Operation Gladio, oranges were a huge symbolic meaning to it. You can see this in The Godfather, which is a true story, which is what's going on, how they made the mafia, legit. Mixing it, blending it in with the religious institutions or whatever that we could still see if you studied the exclusive capitalism and whatnot with the Rothschilds, the Vaticans, and all that, different connections there. But his diner on Orange Street, orange equals 33 in Gematria, I believe.
Oh my God.
But these ley lines are absolutely important for the Templars. I mean, if you think about America was built through Freemasonic type ley lines. You can see it from an aerial view, how there's pentagrams where they put the Washington Monument right in between a Vesica Pisces, which is a symbol of Congress. What does Congress mean? Well, Congress means the sexual act. That's what it means, just like rock and roll. Why do we have rock and roll? Because it all goes back to these different sex cults and whatnot. But I think that strategically placing that diner right there in the heart of Hollywood during Leo, which is like the heart, chakra, and then you got Hulk Hogan, who's a Leo, going into the heart arrest. I believe that these are rituals playing out with all the icons, with all the celebrities and all that. So in that video, it was fun, but there's a lot of truth to it as well, because the six root race, according to Blavatsky, which inspired the National Socialist movement, and Elon is a huge National Socialist. He very much says that he's a socialist. He said it a million times, and he's breaking away from America and starting a new America. What is that all about? What are these words all about? Well, the six root race was supposed to come out of America, come out of California. And this is what Adolf slept with when he went to bed. He slept with this book. Gandhi was inspired by this book. So these world leaders that changed the world forever, a lot of politics comes from theosophy. We could see that the United Nations, with their meditation rooms and their Lucifer type publishing stuff or whatever, or just watch their agenda get carried out with the 2030 agenda. So with Elon's diner being in California, California is where the six root race is going to come out of, which would end America and end Europe. That's sort of, I think, kind of in the mythos of the elite in the storyline, because Elon is a very much occultist. He has a freaking Vril staff. You know what I mean?
Right.
So all these secret societies, this is stuff I look into. AI is playing a huge part of it. AI in numerology is 19. It's 19 locked down the whole world. And while that was happening, we had Palantir, we had Gotham, we had all these AI studies that were going on. That's what that was all about. The whole lockdown, in my opinion, was an AI algorithm studying it. We were hearing things about facial recognition, right? Old technology. And then when the lockdowns were over on 222 at 222, turn, that's when Joe Biden said, okay, we're not in this together anymore. Let's kick off the war stuff. And that's when the conflict happened over with the Trident and with the Big Bear and the motherland or whatever. Everybody calls it motherland and fatherlands and all that. It's funny. But that was when they released ChatGPT. They gave us the AI in ChatGPT after the lockdowns.
Hilarious.
They were utilizing all that technology there, the lockdowns, and the facial recognition was just a smokescreen. So all the technology that they give us, for example, Homeland Security and the feds are being like, we're so America, like we're totally getting rid of, you can wear your shoes now. Go travel.
Right.
But you never needed that with this new technology because the X-rays can see through the shoes. So like they don't need to take off your shoes. So it's absolutely obvious for anyone who can think that everything we see is propaganda. It's symbolic, and numerology does play a huge role in that, as we can see this 33rd floor event that went down and whatnot.
Absolutely. Yeah, I saw someone was attempting to make sense of the numerology as well from the event itself, and was basically just saying, like, obviously the just the conceptual principles of the significance of the numerology within the context of Freemasonry, and essentially how the numbers 3, 5, 7, 9, 11, and 12 are very particularly prominent. And obviously there are different rituals and teachings that are connected to these numbers, but at the same time, I think there's an overall like template that you can somewhat interpret some sort of, not necessarily an motive or anything, but it came down to the 3, 4, 5 of the address, right? Potentially being the Pythagorean influence that, and how, clearly that is connected to, like, I can't remember. It's something, the 47th problem, like Euclid or something. I can't remember now what it technically claimed that it was. But you put that together with Shane Tamura being 27 years old, the 33rd floor, and the 345 Park Avenue. It seems far too, present to just dismiss at face value. And I know that much at the very least, right? But that was interesting to me as far as your sort of, I agree wholeheartedly with the history lesson you basically briefly described in terms of the foundation of America itself. Like there's I'll send you an article. It's from David Livingstone, which is obviously some sort of pseudonym, but at the same time, he has like some phenomenal work, honestly, and he's done a lot on his website. Ordo ABKO, right? And basically order out of chaos, obviously.
The microphone just started breaking up.
Okay. Essentially it was just his website is Ordo out of chaos, basically. Ordo ABKO, from the essentially just leaning into the secret society, obviously. But at the same time, he describes the foundation of America as a Rosicrucian mission that's inspired by Campanelli's City of the Sun and Francis Bacon's New Atlantis, and essentially, goes through to explain how basically this was set up as a haven where they would be free to practice heretical views, and then explains the secret destiny of America, which was Manly P. Hall obviously provided this perspective in the secret destiny of America, where he essentially really, it was like what Bacon quickly, what I think it was what Manly P. Hall wrote in The Secret Destiny of America. Yeah, here's the quote. He says, Bacon quickly realized that here in the New World, was the proper environment for the accomplishment of his great dream, the establishment of the philosophic empire. It must be remembered that Bacon did not play a lone hand. He was a head of a secret society, including in its membership the most brilliant intellectuals of his day. All these men were bound together by a common oath to labor in the cause of a world democracy. Bacon's Society of the Unknown Philosophers included men of high rank and broad influence. Together with Bacon, they devised the colonization scheme. And then Pike explains that the goal of Freemasonry is to fulfill the end times prophecies of the Book of Revelation. So I'm not certain of your thoughts of that in regard to that, but then Manly P. Hall, obviously, he explained it differently as a sort of fulfillment of a universal plan, which was also known as the Great Work, or this sort of alchemical magnum opus. And I found that to be very interesting because it plays so much into the Kabbalah and the Knights Templar, and obviously, Freemasonry, but much more of like providing a very, clear. It's not quite the hidden hand, but it's a clear reference to, the Rosicrucians. I think they had somehow there's like, it's hard to understand the overlapping nature of the fraternal organizations, right? It's like you're never quite certain which organizations are fulfilling which aspect of the agenda, and then lower levels are almost entirely potentially even uninitiated with certain goals of the higher ranking members of the establishment or of the established organization or order itself. And I always find that interesting because it's never it's never black and white. It feels like it's a lot more difficult to gauge how this kind of is facilitated and functions in real time and who are the white hats and the black hats and the evil actors with bad intentions and people who are just kind of like obvious assets that are being exploited for the cause, maybe unbeknownst to themselves. They're subconsciously being leveraged against their own best interest, right? But anyway, I don't know. You reminded me of that when you mentioned the Rosicrucian, connection to this sort of, long-standing, in my mind, structured system that many people are still to this day unaware of the fact that what we perceive as the levers of power and the individual personalities who are actually pulling those levers. I think it's a massive smoke and mirrors layered around us, right? We're not supposed to know the names of the individuals who are legitimately pursuing this dystopian agenda, and also the loyalties they truly hold dearest to the. Anyway, I don't know. I'm just rambling.
Well, Francis Bacon was part of a secret society called the Order of the Helmet, which is connected to Minerva, and it was written about in Shakespeare's play. And there's people that argue, was it real? Was it fake? But it was absolutely real. And the invisibility cap that he wears, it's all symbolic and symbolism of the owl. The owl we see at Bohemian Grove, another secret society that's putting out all this stuff. I would very much like to see this 345 video and its connections to the Euclid problem 47 proposition, because that was huge in the 713 Trump attempt on President Trump's life.
Really?
Symbolically, yeah, because it's the 47th president, the 47th, Euclid. And it happened on 713. And there's a famous, like, you look at the Masonic cryptograph thing where you connect the compass, it equals the 713. That whole event, I got tarred and feathered for pointing out the symbolism of Elon Musk. I said Elon Musk is doing this symbolically. This is what it means, and it's all for the PayPal, Palantir, Peter Thiel mafia.
Right.
The whole Trump camp got so mad at me. It was so overwhelming that I deleted the post, because my YouTube, my channel, is very much organically grown, curated for a great audience, a great, we know we're very much like on page. So I didn't want to get a bunch of normies to the channel, so I deleted it because
Oh man, it sounds so accurate though.
But I was very accurate. Now anybody who is a Trump supporter, I was totally correct and they were totally wrong. You know, same thing with me being a Jewish conspiracy theorist. You know, that's kind of a rare kind of breed out there. Not fully actually, but it for the time I was doing it, I've been correct about all the crazy institutions that have been very anti-Semitic, calling out the UN, calling out the Red Cross, the Red Shield, Rothschild connections, all this stuff. So even in that type of community, I would be vindicated. But the thing is that even if you're correct or if you're right, or whatever, it doesn't matter. Most people are part of this collective and they're asleep. I even heard that some people don't have like an internal monologue or something.
Oh my God. I read that too. Yeah.
You read that? That's kind of scary. That scares me, but
that is terrifying.
But you know, whatever. God made everybody, you know, the way that he did or But I would really much like to see that video that you were talking about. If you could send it to me later.
Yeah, I will.
That'd be cool. I'll do a deep dive on that 345, how the Blackstone 345 ritual that somebody wrote in the comment. I thought that would be a great title for a video.
That would be awesome.
Because this is new information of what's breaking. Last night I was trying to switch up my doing my best as a human to switch up my sleep schedules and work schedules, because I'll be up till like morning time studying these crazy events, you know, getting deep into it with the blue light as well, keeping me up late drinking coffee. And I did this for so many damn years, being a video editor or a researcher or whatever. So trying to bring in the balance of self-help, mental health, kind of self-reflection, and being connected again with my body. This is all kind of new and I haven't really been able to break it down. So this has been fun looking at it like on the fly and giving the outtake. A shout out to the Biblical Hitman. I know,
right?
They were there too. They were hanging out with us.
Yeah, man, for sure. I just did their show as well. I saw that you just had an interview with them, and I just talked to. Basically, it was just me and Steven, but it was a lot of fun, man. I enjoyed that conversation for sure. They're good people, but not to dwell for any amount of time, really. I just felt like it's interesting. What are your thoughts, or have you ever just broken down and tried to pick apart the notion that the protocols of the learned elders of Zion was essentially a pretext to basically have like this very high level of leadership willing to pursue an agenda of essentially sacrificing as many of the underclass Jewish, and just citizens, right, or just individuals of who had connections to obviously either they were considered. It was interesting because what's his name, the individual who launched the protocols and was at least at the meeting and essentially helped create the Zionist project, right? Theodore Herzl, right? Essentially, it was interesting because it seemed as if that it was a strategic goal to make each individual Jew, no matter where they were geographically on the world stage, to essentially feel isolated, and as if they had to flee back to some sort of Jewish homeland to be provided any real defense or security. And so they wanted to, basically there was like an elite, right, Zionist cabal that were essentially willing to sacrifice as many as necessary to create a pretext and a fundamental blank check for the new modern state of Israel, right? And so if they effectively were willing to even potentially help finance, the rise of Hitler and let's say various aspects of World War II to allow for that to take place. And so in my personal opinion, it always felt like too much like it did seem like a very much a strategic goal of a certain small group of individual elites who are attempting to, manifest their right and achieve their goal, no matter right the sort of a collateral damage or a sinister outcome of what would take place. And I don't know. I'm not trying to, make it about this at any level. And if you don't want to talk about it, that's fine. We can pivot to the Epstein.
The protocols, that was a fabrication. It was like pretty much literally copied from another book. They just changed the names,
right.
And then they put it out there. It was part of, I believe, Russia, like Tsar, which has been the most like anti-Semitic like place ever. And to put it out there. And then that was very much promoted. Not only today, we see it being promoted by the FBI, releasing it for everyone to read, or
right.
these big type of influencers as well, pushing that. But it's a hoax. It's been proven it's a hoax. And even just thinking clearly, why would, if that was true at all, which it's not, it's been proven to be a hoax, that why would you even put out something like that and mass distribute it if you did have like a secret plan? And no, the whole scapegoat thing with the Jewish people has always been a thing for a long time. And it's something I've been studying quite a bit over the last few years. I'd like to make a documentary on it or whatnot. It's just people in this like field like of mimetic magic, and like you were saying earlier about stereotypes, it's easier to go to sleep knowing, okay, that's the bad guys. I can go to bed now, not understanding power, not actually understanding world control of
right.
stuff. So that there's
I'm sorry, brother. I had no like ill intent in bringing that up. I just I found it fascinating because I know it's the London Times were the primary debunking publication at the time, and they were owned, and there was like a direct connection to the Rockefellers and I think it was the Rockefeller. It might have been the Rothschilds. I can't remember now at this time, but it was one of those key dynastic families that owned the Times. That was basically, they served the role of the debunking of, and also I do believe that it was like a sort of copying of this prior work, because I did read through that as well. I just found it all very strange and interesting to at least consider. You know what I mean? That was the only reason that I brought it up. But yeah, I find it all fascinating how groups of people and the collective mindset is sort of like misdirected and deceived into embracing these false narratives and these, very much obvious, I think, strategic attempts to further isolate us from each other, and any like willingness to objectively come to the table and pursue the truth in any real way, right, with principles intact and core values at heart. And I think that it's another example of not being able to believe. I mean, at this point in the current environment we reside in, and I can barely trust my own eyes at this moment, right? I mean, just the as you mentioned and we've been discussing, this sort of sophisticated level of AI, and it's just now even, it's in its infancy in itself at this moment, but you can still spot how much this could be like pivotal moving forward, and it probably will, as far as these deep fakes and these various videos, and even the picture of the desk on the 33rd floor, right, of this Manhattan office building. It's like people are asking the question, is this AI? Like, what is going on with the countertop? It seems like it's fusing. It looks very strange. I'll pull it up real quick. Anyway, we'll get out of here.
But also with the fleeing to the homeland thing, I mean, using the scapegoat of the Jewish people has been a known government plan thing through government institutions all throughout, going back to ancient Rome. It's a playbook that always works, and it's always rolled out during times of economic insecurities. And also the way I think about it, and like, you got to know, like, look, I'm Jewish, so I'm going to look at it much differently. than if I was Catholic or if I was Mormon or if I was Christian or if I was Buddhist or whatever, you know.
Right.
We're all going to have these weak chains in studying stuff because of our own biases.
Absolutely.
And this is a big issue if you were trying to find the truth. And this is what really got me into looking into a lot of these conspiracy type topics was certain like people, and they would say stuff about like Jewish people. I'd be like, what the heck? But then I would want to look into it and research it and dive deeper. And what's important really to find the difference between misinformation and disinformation is misinformation is we're human. We're going to obviously make mistakes in our research or learn new things. Disinformation is when you put out a case, put out like an agenda saying this is who's in control, but they're omitting key elements of the power structure to blame a group of people, but usually it comes with a call to action. So this is very simple to figure out. Disinformation is they're telling you truth, but they're omitting information intentionally and leading you to an action. So that could be an action to a vote, an action to not vote, an action, just an action in general. And that's how you know if it's a disinformation campaign. And that's a lot of what's going on. And the secret societies, when we get into Sabbatean, Frankist, and whatnot, they use all the different religions, and they're not committed to any of the religions. You know what I mean? Or they'll use nation states, but they don't care about nation states. Why do we see France or Europe? Why do we see it collapse or whatnot like that when the elite power structures? Because the elite power structures don't care if America collapses or whatever, because they'll just go live somewhere else because they're not married to the philosophy of that land or the principles of that land or whatnot all throughout history. And the same thing goes with different religious groups or political groups, where they'll come out and be like, I'm part of this group or whatever, but they're not really part of that group. They're not married into it. And a lot of information gets left out, especially in today's time. I kind of refrain from talking about it quite a bit, just because people don't want to hear about it. They don't care. They don't care about it.
I apologize. Then I wasn't trying to force your hand or anything.
No. I love to talk about it. No one asked me those questions. I love to talk about it. I've been studying this stuff for like 2 freaking years. Right. With it, and a lot of it is being pushed right now. The anti-Semitism is being pushed by a lot of misinformation. Like that's totally debunkable. But
even Mecha Hitler, right? The AI chatbots, Elmo getting hacked. Like, what the fuck was that, dude? You know, you just. I think I named one of the last Already Dead episodes like anti-Semitic AI chatbots was a part of the name, because to me it felt like a way to reinforce this sort of environment and of anti-Semitism at this moment. That's very I would say it's at its height in this moment,
worldwide,
especially on social media. Yeah, absolutely. And so anyway, I find it fascinating, and I'm always wondering and attempting to, at the very least, pierce through that veil of deception, which is, you already know, that curtain is drawn so, as far as like, that is a very thick curtain that is very heavily drawn in front of our, as far as it's keeping us from being able to actually identify who the true, puppet masters are. And that's by design, but go ahead. I wasn't trying to speak.
Well, the ideologies is a big key component to understanding what's going on for me. Look at the ideologies of the left, right? They're very anti-Semitic. It's the socialist, communist, and that is the goal of the controllers, is worldwide communism. So once I'm studying the symbols of the socialists, why are all these socialist symbols being promoted at NFL, right? Kanye sells his socialist symbols. at the NFL. Why is this all on the world stage? And then studying the left has been huge. It's very interesting, and we'll see what happens. It's pretty crazy, but I definitely I don't like it, but it is what it is.
Absolutely, brother. I know. I just think we should always keep our head on a swivel, remain skeptical of the prevailing narrative, because it's there for a reason. And I think the intent behind it is always clearly dystopian. And that's where we have to, assess for ourselves, discern for ourselves. This is the task that is so difficult. And I think that it's been deliberately, as far as the sophisticated nature of the difficult aspect of just sort of like spotting. Like, I just don't understand why, like, after a certain amount of time, when you've been too plugged in and overexposed, how you don't spot the patterns. And that's the issue that I, I'm kind of like just enduring this sort of frustration at this current moment. But it's only because it's like whenever we mentioned before, the core values that you've attempted to outline for yourself and define for yourself, to where you can effectively exercise them at every level as often as possible. I mean, it's like, if you aren't at the very least attempting to do that, then your soul is vulnerable. You know what I mean? And like at any moment, it's like basically it's essentially the path of least resistance, right? And that is what you're following, and your moral, ethical values are up for sale. And until you come to terms with the reality that you have to identify for yourself what you believe in, because this is what all I see so often playing out. Individuals, this is why I mentioned the God hole, right? Because that, in my mind personally, it's the exploitation of the spiritual warfare, right? The ideological subversion is deep, right? What did Yuri Bezmenov say? What he said this in 84. He said, we need at this moment 10, 15 years straight of completely radically just like re-implementing our social values. And even then, right, so many people wouldn't come to terms with the current state of reality. And it's all, what was the first phase of the ideological subversion that Yuri talks about with G. Edward Griffin? It's demoralization, man. So, right. And so I think they truly want to emotionally, compromise us, man. And I think that you embrace these new age ethical values that are only fall in perfectly with the inverted moral landscape we're intended to embrace as the current reality. And it's all a deceptive tactic to control. It's one nation, it's not even one nation. It's international in scope. But I mean, just we're all under mind control to a certain extent, and honestly, that's what it feels like. And we're all being controlled and leveraged and sort of influenced by a pedophile elite class, an elite class of pedophiles. Yeah. Am I wrong? How does
it's refreshing to hear, because you say stuff that like it's like it's refreshing to hear you talk.
I'm saying it out loud.
Yeah.
Well, I forgot. I don't know. For my own, I'm basically self-defeating in a certain way, because I don't at all self-censor. And at a certain level, I think that the YouTube channel is most likely temporary. But at the same time,
the self-censoring, which is mind control, when I had my channel and it was just kept on getting removed, just like everyone else during the lockdowns, which I find interesting that everyone who was speaking out at the lockdowns with big channels all were removed, shadow banned, and then all these new like truthers came out and they're being like in the conversations with all the podcasts, all making rounds, all working together. And we could see that even like with us, we all kind of make rounds in the same social, circles and whatnot. So we could kind of see how things operate as being a content creator. And then you could see it at a higher level. Why are all these top people making rounds? How come they're the only ones who get to speak? How come they're the only ones in the conversation? We're told we are the media. You're the media. Everyone's the media. No, we're not the media. this is a death and rebirth ritual of the mainstream media, the MSM. All the people on the MSM are now the freaking independent media that everyone trusts, but they're still owned by the same corporations as well. I heard that if you look into who's funding a lot of these operations, but you could just see it through the symbolism. When you look and study at the symbols, you'll be like, oh my goodness, like why do they all have the same symbols? Why do they all have the same talking points too? Like there's no critical thinking or research and whatnot. But I want to hear before this ends about this Epstein niece. I want to know about this.
Awesome, buddy. Thank you. Because otherwise, I don't know if I would make it back to that topic. No, honestly, I get carried away. I start going down tangents accidentally, but no, I appreciate this conversation very much, brother.
I'll send you some articles on the topic that are quite interesting.
Yeah, no, I would love that, man. Obviously, yeah, definitely. Thank you. And I will say, man, like you just look at like Modern Mockingbird that I mentioned earlier. It's the new age of social media platforms, right? And it begins with the age of fact checkers at the beginning, right? Where essentially everyone's going to, and still Snopes, I guess, is somewhat popular, but at the same time, it's like these content moderators and fact checkers. It really just started to overwhelm, just the alternative media landscape. And then you have, what do you have? You have the financing from the big tech oligarchs, right? Who seem to be false prophets, in my opinion, that have been built up in these various ways. You look at Elon, what is it? Haldeman was his uncle, who's like a part of the Social Credit Party of Canada and was and ran. Yes. And he ran a corporation called Technocracy Incorporated.
Right.
Like, and you wonder why Elon has these specific goals in
their outfit was the gray suits. That's what the SS outfit was based off of that.
Of course, man.
So like the symbolism, even what people are wearing too in these different cults
is essentially, yeah, and the theosophical aspect of Hitler, right, and the SS, right, the Theosophical Society, Helena Blavatsky's work. They were very interested in what was it, the Spear of Destiny. They're like traveling. They have they're going to Antarctica, founding New Schwabenland, right, which to this day, it's just like you have this Germanic footprint, which is fascinating. And the same in like if you follow Paul Schaefer and Colonia Dignidad and essentially how this pedophile within the SS was abusing children and then escaped Germany and went to Chile and started this compound called the Colonia Dignidad, where they said it was like a time warp. If you went there, it was like you were transported back into Nazi Germany.
Oh wow. Yeah, I remember when they arrested the guy like way later when he was like 80.
Yeah.
I think that's the same guy.
Oh yeah, he was missing for a while because he escaped through the underground tunnel system they had built on the compound with razor wire fences and like, yeah, it's crazy. There were investigators who went there and like did the first initial raid and thought that, and he actually felt, he was like, I believe Paul Schaefer was underneath our feet that day, like escaping through the underground tunnel system. Oh, they had like an advanced, they were a sophisticated weaponry was being manufactured at Colonia. They had a private airstrip, everything. Like Mengele allegedly flew in and stayed there for a time, right? The Angel of Death, Joseph Mengele, which is just so crazy. And they're connected to like various targeted political assassinations, even in the U.S. There was one in D.C. as a car bomb. I can't remember the name of the guy at this moment, but yeah, directly connected back to Operation Gladio, the Nazi rat lines post-World War II, and essentially Operation Condor is what really kind of is the geographical clandestine operation that falls into the network itself. Anyway, very, very interesting, but I'll stop talking about that.
And then Operation Paperclip too, like with the whole Elon connection there with the rocket program, or even the strange, like different, like occult religious type stuff with the rocket program with Jack Parson and L. Ron Hubbard creating all of these different new, religions too. I think right? Wasn't L. Ron Hubbard the Scientology guy?
Yeah, him and Jack Parsons were straight up. They were a part of this sort of rogue, like, well, it was like this Rosicrucian Freemasonic lodge in Pasadena, right? And it's very strange, but Manson passed through there for a time, and I forget what the Devil's Staircase was one of the locations. They would have like blood ritual ceremonies, and Manson was involved for a time, and a lot of these people were attending the same right parties, which is very interesting. But yeah, L. Ron Hubbard and Jack Parsons were what was it called? The trying to remember, Babylon Working, right? It was this sex ritual that they were attempting to bring back. What's her name? Anyway, doesn't matter. It's very interesting though. It's an occult goddess. Essentially they're trying to manifest.
Whore of Babylon.
Yeah, the Whore of Babylon. And wasn't it Jack Parsons' wife was actually the one that they were attempting to use, and then she cheated with L. Ron Hubbard and ran off, and then Jack Parsons was like he hated L. Ron Hubbard after that. But I honestly think that if you're looking at Scientology, I think Scientology was legitimately a CIA sort of an intelligence construct, not necessarily just CIA, but an intelligence construct for plausible deniability to create these sort of cult organizations, to effectively pursue various techniques of experimenting with mind control, also religious, ideological, just ideologies in general, and this sort of new framework of providing plausible deniability through sort of like, at the very least, I think all of like MK Ultra, all of these various covert operations at the time were driven underground into the context of like utilizing these cult organizations. And it was all around 1975, 1972, that same window of time where the church committee hearings were taking place, and they claimed like we were getting public transparency. It's not real. Basically, Richard Helms, the CIA director, he ordered thousands of files destroyed before any of the disclosure happened in the hearings, and so we never will have an actual window into the reality of the clandestine operations and the full scope of what they were attempting and potentially did achieve, within that framework. And so it's always been fascinating to me, what else were they attempting to pursue, and especially after that time, because again, just after the alleged disclosure, what happens? There's essentially this buildup to the satanic panic because of all this rise in the existence of these occult organizations that are at the heart of all of these various scandals during that time, which led to that sort of mass hysteria. But anyway, we could talk about that all day, so I shouldn't dwell on that. We should, at the very least, since you asked.
No, I mean, it's very strange. Like, right? I was just thinking when you're talking about it, I was thinking like you go to Hollywood, you got that big like different church, Scientology church, it's just like all the operations that are going on behind the scenes, that it's very sophisticated. We live in a very strange world, and then the more you like research this stuff, you see that there's like little scapegoats and loopholes for us to focus on. And there's a lot of memes that sort of call it out, like this person only says it's the Jays, or this person says it's the Illuminati, or this person says it's the Jesuits, or this person says it's the globalist, or keeping it kind of. There's a large thing happening. Large, that's what she said. It's very fascinating. I'm very interested in these topics. I think a lot of people are too, and I think that the rise of like my channel during the lockdowns is people wanted questions. People were kind of breaking free from the old mainstream, and then they'll be like, okay, we'll give you if you question the story, then you're like, oh, you're telling the truth. You're questioning the story, So they just have all these mainstream characters question the story of what, like 80 years ago or something, or, and now they're like so edgy. It's like all the the alternative research field's been questioning this stuff for a long time. Yeah, I don't know. It's very weird stuff. And the more I know, the more I don't know, or whatever that quote is.
But that shows that, you know, you're attempting to find out. Do what?
I'm listening. I'll be right back.
Okay, sounds good, buddy. Yeah, it just goes to show that he's clearly attempting to discover. He's attempting to remove the veil for himself, just as I am, in terms of just attempting to once and for all. And this is, of course, almost an unattainable goal to a certain extent, because we're always going to have to wade through the newest encounter of this very well laid out, deceptive, you know, tactical misdirection of whatever the new you know, alternative or mainstream narrative usually is attempting us to have us sort of embrace. But yeah, before we get out of here, and before I actually provide the Epstein niece connection, I kind of think it's important to, at the very least, mention the fact that obviously Ghislaine Maxwell, she's potentially going to receive a pardon, right? Which I'm under the impression that this will effectively happen at some point, and especially considering that she's already been granted limited immunity after her meeting with the DOJ, and then she just apparently gave a pitch, and well, of course, obviously, in that meeting with the DOJ, she allegedly mentioned, and this is when she's granted the limited immunity. Essentially, she basically mentioned a pardon being. But anyway, she had also claimed that she had named, like, at least the publication and the reports are claiming that she named at least 100 people or something to that effect. And oh God, you're getting stared down, brother. But I love it. My dog's in there like shaking her ass off. We'll have to get out of here in a moment, but before we do, I'll try and present this Epstein niece connection, and then we'll jet. But yeah, and it's kind of hilarious, right? You see the Epstein is Russia, Russia is Epstein, attempted misdirection being one of the narratives they're trotting out. Another one being, hey, remember everyone how much you hate Obama and Hillary? Yeah, just focus on the Russia hoax, because Epstein is a hoax just the same, right? Which is just very convenient for Trump personally. Obviously, it's an attempted, PR. What is it? Just an attempt to control the narrative, and also what's it called? Damage control, obviously. Because, and I think that's another reason, like, Elon strategically distanced himself at a very convenient time and moment in terms of kind of eluding a lot of the baggage, even though we all know that he has he's connected to the Edge Foundation. He's been pictured with Ghislaine Maxwell. I think they're far more allegedly they had a conversation, and Ghislaine asked Elon at one of the Edge Foundation meetings, how could you effectively erase your entire personal history off of the internet? That's what Ghislaine asked Elon at one of those meetings, which yeah, that in itself is a very revealing question to ask someone like that.
That's wild. Can you? The audio just got muffled for a little bit.
Yeah, I was just saying that was legitimately like a very revealing question to ask Elon.
Crazy.
Yeah, I know. But let's watch this. Then I'll talk about his niece, and then we'll get out of here. But I'm gonna get
Is it his niece? Because like his dad married his stepdaughter or something.
Yeah, but it's so strange because you already know, like, he's had like I think that basically he had these sort of breeding experiments going on, right? And especially at Zorro Ranch, where he had like this stable of women he was attempting to impregnate for all this time. Now I wonder if you're legitimately, imagine in the context.
My bad. I'm talking about Elon when I said his stepdaughter.
Oh yeah, dude. What about Elon's like trans son, right? That's going out there talking to Hassan Piker and shit. I always thought that was funny. But yeah, there's always a sacrifice that's made as well that I find interesting in terms of the familial obligation to kind of sacrifice a member of your own family to the cause. I don't know if that's a part of it, but I would say, like, anyway, it's just very interesting that his son is a trans. But either way, let's play this really quickly. I'm gonna go get something to drink real quick while this is playing, and then I'll be right back, and we'll finish off the Epstein niece connection, and get on out of here. I know we got Jacob in the back, we got Shy in the back. What's up, boys? Sorry, Jacob, I know I didn't.
That like button.
Yeah, dude, for sure. But here, I'll be right back. If you cool with me playing this, or do you just want to rest for a second while I go get something to drink? Okay, I'll be right back.
Convicted Epstein co-conspirator Ghislaine Maxwell is now appealing to the Supreme Court just days after sitting down with the DOJ. Maxwell's legal team argues that the government has a, quote, obligation to honor a non-prosecution agreement with Jeffrey Epstein that they say protects her from any criminal charges. This comes after this comes just hours after President Trump maintained that he's allowed to pardon Maxwell, even though nobody's asked him about it. Take a listen.
Well, I'm allowed to give her a pardon, but nobody's approached me with it. Nobody's asked me about it. I never had the privilege of going to his island, and I did turn it down, but a lot of people in Palm Beach were invited to his island. In one of my very good moments, I turned it down. I didn't want to go to his island.
Deputy Attorney General Todd Blanche met with Maxwell for 9 hours last week in Florida. Sources tell ABC News that she initiated the meetings and received limited immunity for the statements that she made. So for more on this, I want to bring in our congressional correspondent, Jay O'Brien, who covers Capitol Hill. And Jay, first, can you break down this appeal for us?
Yeah, so this is Ghislaine Maxwell and her attorneys going to the U.S. Supreme Court to essentially say that her conviction should be tossed out because she was covered, they argue, under a 2007 non-prosecution agreement that Jeffrey Epstein reached with the U.S. government and specifically.
Yeah, which obviously that had to do with like Alex Acosta, who was told he's at least one of the attorneys involved at the time, right, with this special agreement that was made with Epstein and his legal counsel, and basically all of the co-conspirators, and it was very strange. It was a very strange sweetheart deal that he was given, because not only were all his co-conspirators essentially, given this sort of immunity from any further conviction or any sort of like, obvious legal consequences due to their affiliation with the network and Epstein himself. It was any future co-conspirators who would be named as well, which definitely brings this case specifically into question in terms of I understand why her legal counsel would legitimately pursue this as a way to get out, in terms of her already her conviction. And so seeing as she's playing ball clearly with the Trump administration at this moment, you're obviously going to have something withheld in terms of his specific, involvement at any real level. I would imagine that was a huge component within the context of a deal being made with Ghislaine, who just now said that she's willing to come out and give public statements, address Congress, like in every single way. And she's obviously, as I mentioned before, she's like making a pitch to the Supreme Court regarding the Epstein deal, with obviously the U.S. Attorney's Office in 2007, as they just mentioned there. So it seems like this is just, this is going to be some sort of manufactured disclosure, which will only strategically, misdirect any of the concerned citizens, right, who are looking for a justification to remain in the current system of the permanent establishment. And so how many of these people who actually, believe that their vote matters and it makes a huge difference and they play a role in the current system, how many of those people are desperate for a way to justify their obvious decision? It's just natural. That is just, it's a common occurrence at this point. It's kind of just the dystopian aspect of the current position we find ourselves in. So now it's just a part. It's basically, how much have you been able to reject your prior programming and opt out and unplug from this very much well orchestrated political theater playing out at every level, attempted to obviously draw our attention away from the true I would say just what's it called? The true damn it. There's a term for like the root cause. That's what I was looking for. And so anyway, that's always the case, right? So let's finish a little bit more of this, and then I'll tell you about Epstein's niece.
The U.S. Attorney's Office for the Southern District of Florida. The way that this agreement came together is that federal prosecutors, again, this is in 2005 to 6 to 2007, went to Jeffrey Epstein and said that if you pled guilty to state charges and you registered as a sex offender, the government would prosecute you for federal charges, and therefore they give him this non-prosecution agreement, which doesn't just name Jeffrey Epstein, but it also names alleged co-conspirators, both named and unnamed in this non-prosecution agreement. So what Ghislaine Maxwell says is, okay, that non-prosecution agreement that the government reached with Epstein in 2007 also applies to me. That's the argument she's giving to the United States Supreme Court. Now, what the federal government has said in the past is that because Ghislaine Maxwell wasn't a party to that agreement, firstly, it doesn't apply to her. And even if this agreement did apply to her, the argument they've made in the past is that because it was struck in Florida, in the Southern District of Florida, it doesn't apply to these charges that were brought against Jeffrey Epstein and ultimately Ghislaine Maxwell in 2019 and onward in New York, a different U.S. Attorney's Office. So that's what's no doubt going to be haggled in front of the United States Supreme Court if the Supreme Court ultimately does take this case, Alex, and it's still a big if.
Well, and Jay, Republican Thomas Massie and Democrat Ro Khanna are some of the loudest voices in Congress demanding transparency. Here's what they said yesterday on This Week. Take a listen.
I think we should get a lot more than just the book. Let's get the financial records of the estate. Follow the money. It's hard to believe that she herself and Epstein did these crimes by themselves, right?
Yeah, that's for sure. I could play the whole thing, but it's unnecessary, honestly. You get the picture, and the point being obviously that you do have a sort of bipartisan, a cry or pressure, I guess, bipartisan pressure to essentially reveal some of the details within the alleged files that exist, right? They exist, but they don't exist. Are you still talking about Epstein, DoeNut? I can't believe you, dude. How dare you be concerned about the welfare of the children? And that's basically where we're at, right? Because essentially you have to, you have skin in the game in terms of the current political structured system. And so that is why I think the Delphi method, reigns supreme and rings so true in terms of how they kind of like deliberately, and strategically exploit us, right? And it's very interesting in terms of what the Delphi method stands for, because it's a technique that's been manufactured and created by the Rand Corporation, right? And the Rand Corporation has very much been a part of like these dystopian think tanks that have like the Project for a New American Century, who created, the call for a new Pearl Harbor, right? Essentially, that was leading up to 9/11, and it was just another kind of key factor that plays into this sort of the age of Aquarius, right? And this kind of like the coming age and the attempt to rebuild from the ashes in a certain way, right? But it's definitely very, very strange how they essentially kind of lure and appeal to the individual masses, right? The general public. And I think that post World War II, when Rand Corporation created this technique called, the Delphi method, and it's a direct appeal to authority is 100% what it is. And it makes sense because, that is why the path of least resistance has been conditioned into the average person, right? Because you're intended to comply at every level. And if you reject, your prior programming, then it becomes far more, it's more difficult for the ruling class to effectively implement their strategic, outcome. And so that is why at every level we're being subverted. But this appeal to authority is very interesting because essentially it's effectively defined as a structured communication technique or method of relying on a panel of experts. Now, remember with COVID, isn't that and even with global warming, climate change, right? It's always about utilizing this appeal to authority. The expert say,
who's the expert now? It's your AI. Everyone goes to AI to fact check. So the fact checking and the AI isn't putting in all the great works of, like, you know, it's leaving out a lot of the information, omitting the information. But like, you debate and then you go, well, is this right? I'm going to ask ChatGPT. It'll give you totally different feedbacks according to the yes man, you know, mentality of whatever you believe, you know.
Yeah, 100%. And I think that's a reason why, I mean, like Henry Kissinger and these individuals who, you know, are obviously sinister in their intention and are operatives, at least behind the scenes, they're very influential, you know, to say the least. But the appeal to authority, it reminded me of a quote by Kissinger, right? And he basically says an expert is just someone who articulates the needs of those in power. And I always found that interesting, especially considering who said that, right? And how,
whoa, that's wild,
right? So the Delphi method, it assumes that group judgments are more valid than individual judgments. So even the name itself obviously has a direct roots in the occult and derives from
the Oracle of Delphi.
Exactly. And so, however, you know, you have to, I guess, consider the fact that honestly,
so like it's saying that it's the group collective consciousness is what's important, not the individual judgments and whatnot, which is just what is the collective? It's a commune, it's communism, it's socialism, it's the group, it's the group think, cultural Marxism, group think, algorithms and comments and fake comments and AI comments and ratio. This is the big thing, is like, oh, you've been ratioed.
Yeah.
You've been group think, where you come with the crowd, come with the collective. This is what we all believe. And then if you're an individual and you do have judgment and you do question the cult, then you are banished, made fun of, yelled at, ostracized and whatnot. So people usually conform. And this is super important with the whole ideology of the collective, of the socialists, communists. Like, that's the group think, the world mind, and breaking free from that is pretty daring challenge, like to say the least, because they've done all the studies on it, right? They've done studies where they would be in a group and they'll be like, what color is this? Or it's blue, when it's obviously red, and people will be like, oh no, it's blue, because the group's saying it's blue. And we see that in the classroom, and we see that everywhere we go, just the ratio of the crowd. Now, who's algorithmically manipulating the crowd to believe certain things with the top influencers, the controllers that are the new propagandists, all telling you the same thing. This is what to believe. The comment section, oh, I'm so happy I went into the comment section and saw that all the people are saying the same things that I believe, and group think, and if you question it, you're not going to be invited on the podcast. You're not going to be, because that is how a cult works. This is a cult. We're living through all these different silos of different cults, and cults will not accept an opinion, especially an opinion that goes against their group think or their leader. And it's a very feminine trait. It is like, so you got the masculine, which is the leader, and then the group would be considered the feminine. And this doesn't mean male or female. This is just energetically like the polarity of it. Everybody has both.
Right.
And if you see a concert, there's the one guy on stage rocking and rolling in the crowd, and the guy tells the crowd what to do. Jump up and down, or put your cell phone in the air, or your lighter in the air. And this is the same thing when it comes to the content creators and the influencers, and then the feminine crowd consuming. It's all energetically the same, just like a light switch. You got the masculine light switch that puts into the feminine, and that consumes it. This is like all the same simple concepts of the crowd is the feminine energy, and it's not the individual. It's not in the masculine, and it is easy to manipulate as well. That's why, like the crowd is the real scary thing, and I saw that in the lockdowns of like how society is just so easily manipulated, and if you don't go along with it, you're going to get yelled at, you're going to get, so I just think those are sort of important things to think about too.
Definitely. And it's the duality, like you're mentioning there, and playing out, in real time, and the strange sex rituals that seem, or fertility rituals, whatever you want to call it. Even the Apollo, moon missions were essentially like a phallus shaped object penetrating, it was basically described to me, if I don't know if I cut out or not, but the Apollo moon missions are basically described as a legitimate fertility sex ritual, and essentially the individuals involved were attempting to conduct this at a level where, it was at the very least, it was kind of like an ultimate, it falls within the framework of like this sort of, I've described it before as this intersection of culture creation, right? Social engineering, covert intelligence operations, and esoteric occult ideologies, essentially subconsciously initiating people using various methods of deception, utilizing symbolism, and occult iconography, right? And that goes into whatever sort of esoteric or occult doctrine that you kind of subscribe to, even in the context of like the neo-pagan belief system with like the Odinites, which I just did a almost 4-hour episode with the Occult Rejects about the Delphi, about the Delphi murders, dude. The 2017 murders in Indiana, in Delphi, Indiana. It's fascinating, man. It seems like the perpetrators were actually a part of this local neo-pagan Odinite group called the Vinlander Group. And they basically, Brad Holder and Elvis Fields, and there's another individual, I forget his name right now. But I believe they were the perpetrators who were conducting a neo-pagan Odinite blood ritual for initiatory reasons. And even Ronald Logan, the owner of the property where the site itself, the murder site, was discovered, where the bodies were arranged, right? And specifically one of the bodies, her clothes were removed and she was nude, but her clothes were then placed on the other dead girl's body. And they had them strategically positioned and arranged like they were mimicking the Odin hanging from World Tree portrait. And basically these members of the Vinlander group were going through this initiatory blood sacrifice ritual. And within 33 days, it was the 33 days after the alleged murders took place on an occult holiday. It was the 13th of February, and the bodies were found on the 14th. And it turns out Ronald Logan, where the property, the property owner where the bodies were found, he was 77 years old. I thought, okay, maybe that just came up the other day, and I thought that's very interesting because there's a Freemason private cemetery that's very close by as well, and maybe he was just providing the property for this initiatory ritual, and he was just affiliated with the organization. There was a procurement process and everything. Go ahead.
Until February 13th, I was trying to see the exact date because Woden's Day is Wednesday. So February 14th last year, I'm not sure if it landed on a Tuesday or a Wednesday because the Google AI is terrible at dates. But that is leaves 3 to 2 days until the end of the year. That's usually when they put the Super Bowl on as well. So just weird stuff to throw out there.
That is insane, honestly. It really is. But yeah, anyway, I could talk about that forever, obviously. So we'll finish the Epstein note here about Anya Wick, Epstein's alleged niece. And then we'll go ahead and get the hell out of here, brother. I appreciate your time for sure, man. Thank you again.
I appreciate you, bro. I learned so much from your show.
Oh, dude. We need to do this more, honestly. I won't. I'll try not to basically, I don't know. I feel like I run my mouth too much occasionally. I want to spotlight your work a little bit more. So I apologize if I did too much.
No, you're awesome, bro. Like, I'm here to learn from you, bro.
Stop it, dude. Stop it. But, I am I'm very interested to see how legitimate and credible this woman's story is about Jeffrey and potentially her actually being related to him as his niece. And because the allegations that she's coming forward and making are like, they're incredible, but they fit a pattern that I'm very used to but I will say there are some extraordinary allegations that are among her claims, and that includes that she says her twin brother is actor Shia LaBeouf, and that they were separated at age 4 with forged birth certificates as part of a ritualistic control mechanism. So who knows how legitimate this could be.
Yeah, I don't know. That kind of gets weird when you get Shia LaBeouf involved in it. Like, not saying like there's not rituals or whatever, but like it's kind of. So I don't know anything about this. What's the
It's crazy
lady's name?
So her name is Anya Wick. All right, and she's saying that her family masqueraded themselves as Jewish publicly, but behind closed doors, we're Satanists. This is what she tells us. So she went on Sean Atwood's podcast the other day.
Sean Atwood's podcast.
Sean Atwood, yeah, and I haven't listened to that episode yet, but I'm going to. I have to, because she basically claims to expose not only Clinton, but Harvey Weinstein, even Larry David. As I mentioned privately before we started, like she mentioned the fact that she was introduced at a very young age to Larry David and Harvey Weinstein and another individual perpetrator who were introduced to her and to other individuals who were at this event, who were asking basically that essentially they were introduced to her personally as her uncle, right? And then they would then claim that to anyone else who was a prying eye, right, they would basically just represent themselves as her uncle. But either way, it's very strange and interesting. And she says that she was born Anya Beth Epstein. Now, she also claims that she had like transitioned genders to like essentially she was internally and psychologically attempting to escape from her essentially her entire lifespan of abuse. Like she had basically been effectively abused since she was at the very least 4 years old, right? But I think it was prior to that even that she is claiming. But it is very interesting. She claims all this MK Ultra style DID amnesia that she's experienced, and all after she had been a sex slave and dosed with LSD to sever her memories and put her in this sort of vulnerable state psychologically, to where this is how you like you distort and destruct, well, not destruct, but distort the neural pathways and disrupt the neural pathways. That's what I was looking for. So you disrupt the neural pathways of the brain, you essentially hemorrhage them, and you sort of, your brain fractures into different parts, into this sort of fight or flight natural response, right? And so that's a part of the DID, trauma-based mind control. But I honestly should let you gauge, kind of what you think, just knee-jerk reaction from her little public appearance recently. And then there's a brief video of her kind of making these claims. Let's check it out real quick, and then I'll give a few more additional details, and then we'll go ahead and end this thing. But this is so nuts to me.
May Day is the Illuminati Day.
Is it really?
Yes. So whenever you see a May Day, that's when the Illuminati was founded on May 1st.
My name is Anna, or Anya Wick. Changed from Anna Petrova when I was briefly married. Changed from Owen Theodore Epstein when I transitioned back to female. Changed from my birth name, Anya Beth Epstein, when I transitioned from female to male. I'll come back to that later. I want to talk about Justin, Diddy, and Blink Twice as conversations I've been seeing relate to my personal experiences. These are experiences I've been wanting to speak on for a while now, and I've been pretty terrified of retaliation like my uncle faced, or repercussions of general disbelief, but it doesn't matter. When I spoke to the FBI a couple of years ago, they interviewed my perpetrators, who, of course, denied their actions, and the case was dropped. I'm tired of it weighing on me. It's had me sick, and these conversations are happening right now. So, I believe that Justin was passed around, that it's perfectly normal in the industry, I believe Diddy's guilty and that he is maybe being a scapegoat of sorts to keep attention away from the bigger picture. And I think that blink twice is a metaphor for human trafficking that is actually aided by LSD. I know they did MDMA in the film, but like the perfume that makes people forget, the venom that helps them remember, it's all very parallel to the effects that LSD alone had on me while I was growing up getting passed around at orgies as a sex slave. I had amnesia, like a split mind for the majority of my life. That was the point of the acid. Everything that I experienced on it was blocked out completely. And I only remembered the circumstances I was trapped in when the drug had already kicked in. So what happened is my family would dose me and rape me with their friends and relatives. Always, by the time I was high, it was impossible for me to run. And by the time the drug wore off, I would have forgotten everything. Now, this started in infancy and slowed down and finally stopped when I began taking testosterone in 2015. I had to de-sex myself.
That's very strange.
My memories began resurfacing.
Imagine that right there, though, right? Like, you would go to that extent, to that extreme, to potentially just escape the consequences of your abuse, to essentially get it to a place to where you were asexual, you weren't even pursuing it to a certain level. Like, I can't imagine, the destruction and the brutal aspect of what just the style of abuse that would destroy your sort of pleasure center to that extent, right? To where you didn't even want to experience pleasure due to your prior abuse, right? Your history of abuse, and where that pleasure center used to essentially be associated with, and what actions it was affiliated or associated to as well, right? And then that alone is just like terrible to consider and conceptualize in any way. But it's almost over.
And finally sticking in 2020, at which point my healing started to begin. Sometimes it was just my father. Usually it was both my parents and my brothers at an isolated cabin they had purchased. Often it was with the extended family we had in town. And sometimes it was at these massive parties on vacation. I would be told we were going to a family reunion or one of my father's work functions. They would give me something special to drink. I'd get ogled by a bunch of old men, sometimes introduced to various people as my siblings. I would initially enjoy myself, kind of. And then I recognized the effects on my body that were so familiar. Memories would start to come back, and the horror set in before I'd get raped. I'd usually be mostly unconscious for these assaults and not come to until we had left the affair or just the morning after packing up. Why do I bring Hollywood into this? At the orgy I remember best, at Aspen in late spring of 2007,
This is the one.
I was introduced to Jeffrey Epstein, Harvey Weinstein, Larry David as my uncles before the assaults began. When I came to, rope bound in a hotel room at the lodge, Larry was still orally penetrating me. My mother apologized to him, told him he had to stop. He complimented her for how well she trained me.
Dude,
I couldn't move or scream.
that is exactly what was going on in Marc Dutroix's network, what they were doing to those children in the Belgian X-Files, man. If you read the X dossier, what happened to Regina Louf, who was X1 in the context of those files, one of the victim witnesses, yeah, it's far more disturbing than anything that Anya just described. But still, This is the, you want to call it pattern recognition, that's fine. I don't see anything wrong with that. But at the same time, it's like they utilize very, very similar, techniques in terms of the abuse. And I wouldn't at all be shocked if every word of what she says is based in some sort of version of the truth, right? And you never know. I mean, maybe it is a constructed. It's just so difficult because my experience with researching the False Memory Syndrome Foundation and basically how all of these MK Ultra operatives and pedophiles came together to undermine the credibility of victim witnesses who were children when they were abused. Yeah, it's very difficult for me to imagine that this couldn't also fall perfectly into place as far as being yet another puzzle piece that unfortunately, will again add to this sort of overall picture that we're beginning to witness in terms of these abuse and state-sponsored abuse networks is the problem. But anyway, she goes on to effectively describe a few other aspects of her abuse and just again she's just, her allegations are extraordinary, honestly, and it's something that I think we all should look into a little bit further, because again she's claiming all of these severed memories, which falls perfectly in line with the False Memory Syndrome Foundation and their attempted discrediting of victims. And then she says that her family belonged to the cult of Baal, a 1,000-year-old satanic fertility cult practicing child sacrifice and abuse hidden behind a Jewish facade. This is what she says. It's super fascinating. But anyway, beyond that, she claims that she was involved in teen abuse with other toddlers in the rituals as well. So it falls in line again with Paul Bonacci and the Franklin and the network and the Finders cult, and how they would sadistically leverage and exploit the child victims that they procured and conditioned. And again, like she just mentioned, what, her mom, is that what she mentioned? Her mom told Larry David, she apologized to him for her daughter coming to and being awake during the abuse, and essentially saying, and then he allegedly compliments her on the level of conditioning that she had achieved with her own daughter. That falls again into the Marc Dutroux network, and how excuse me, Regina Louf's grandmother gave a key to a sadistic, prolific pedophile that he had free range of their home property, and he would just come whenever he felt like it and pick up Regina, who had at least 60 plus, maybe 100 plus, I forget, altars that were perfectly in place, utilizing this sort of mind control manual and dissociative identity disorder playbook that they utilized to fracture off the neural pathways, to where one of her identities in her alter state was they called the whore, and she was just entirely receptive to any and all sexual proclivities, no matter how sinister they were. And it's just like disgusting, but understanding post-hypnotic suggestion and these very extremely sophisticated techniques for generations have been utilized and exploited. I see this as a potential reality, as far as this could very well be true. And who knows? I mean, I think all the vast majority of celebrities are manufactured personalities, and in the moment that they sort of opt out and cultivate a voice of their own, you become a priority target. You lose your power within the context of being placed on the path of prominence. And so anyway, we could talk about this as well for forever, but I'll stop running my mouth. And DoeNut, honestly, dude, do you have anything else you want to talk about at all, or do you at any level? And then once you're done, just you can start giving your plugs if you want, honestly, buddy.
Oh, no, yeah. I mean, that's a very, scary, dark topic that you brought up. And we could just see the Boys Town thing I just learned about, which blew my mind, about the Charles Manson connection and Boys Town. And then you got that one creep, what's his name?
Which one?
That was working with Prince Charles.
Oh, Jimmy Savile.
Jimmy Savile.
Yeah.
Creepy stuff going on. But that stuff, yeah, it's a sad, scary, rabbit hole. I did
know, man.
get to do I did a podcast with the writer, author of the Franklin Cover-Up as well.
Nick?
So we also got that.
Oh, wait. No, the Franklin Cover-Up was John DeCamp, right?
Well, the Franklin Scandal, I mean.
Nick Bryant. Yeah, he's great, man. Nick's the best.
Yeah, it's very wild stuff there. But yeah, I mean, I don't really got anything else to say. I'm going to be doing some research tonight on all the stuff that's breaking right now. And yeah, that's about it.
What's your what is it? Illuminati book? Isn't that the name of your book?
Illuminati comic. Eventually, the Illuminati book will come out. But I did the Illuminati comic with Paranoid American, which is really good.
Awesome.
Yeah, it was just covering all the different secret societies and stuff, but having a flair with the investigation of like I like music and I like art and stuff, so I kind of mix my content with branding with different artists and stuff like that. So it's kind of cool, because I'm very inspired by a lot of the mystery. I like to investigate the mysteries and all that, and but yeah, it's good.
Of course, buddy. Man, I can't thank you enough, DoeNut. It's nothing but love on my end, brother. And I hope, I don't know. I hope some of the things that I brought up today, I'm just so used to casually dropping some of the breadcrumbs in terms of certain abuse networks I've studied and researched personally as of late. That I apologize if for any reason you weren't really hoping we would descend into that darkness, but it's unfortunately something that I spend too much of my time researching, so it happens to come up quite often. But
yeah,
I do. I have to say, you're 100% right. The level of darkness, it has an emotional toll that it takes, on you yourself just from researching it, and. But I personally, I make the decision, obviously, like for my own well-being, I have to pivot away from that information occasionally and cleanse my palate at a certain level. But at the same,
like that's how I built my channel covering those topics, like Epstein and all that, and I was definitely like attacked a lot by those topics. But that's like what I built my channel. I was talking about the lockdowns. Epstein made tons of videos on it. Its connections with Deutsche Bank and the different assassinations that happened with the judge. Just like I went like crazy looking into that stuff. But I'm not really too caught up with all the new news that's out there right now.
Oh man, you're better off for it probably, honestly, buddy, because it's just so frequently occurring, so that's the most disturbing aspect of it, honestly, is that it's not hard to find at this point. But anyway, well, we better get the hell out of here. Again, dude, thank you so much for your time. I didn't expect this to go almost 3 hours, but yeah, I'm down to do this anytime, and we can kind of iron out beforehand if we want to specifically focus on certain things so we don't get too in the weeds. And I'm very schizophrenic minded, so that's a reason why we basically call the show we're Schizo Bros. Schizo Bros, a symbol. That's essentially the call for Already Dead. But yeah, I will say thank you so much, man. And I learned a lot just from the occult numerology aspect of things, because it's something I'm far less affiliated with. I'm just now coming to, now I'm aware of it, and I have been, but I'm just now figuring out how to kind of interpret it for myself in a way that feels credible, because that was another reason I kind of like just kept it at a distance in terms of the attempting to rely too heavily upon the symbology and the numerology in making a certain case that I was attempting. But that's just my approach in certain aspects of these networks and things of that nature, and the power paradigm as it exists. So, but
Sure.
yeah, man.
Well, no, like my whole journey when was like I went on a wicked smart journey, and then so when I talk about the different symbols, numerology, and all that, I also add in the wicked smart info to within it, and I think I do a good job with it so far.
Absolutely, I think you're killing it. That's the hope, right? The intention is to kind of bridge that gap between conspiracy and credibility, and bring people to the reality, to the realization that there's far more to this than you would accept at face value. You just have to kind of expose yourself to that knowledge, and once you're aware of the mindset and the philosophy of the initiated, becomes far more compelling, and it's almost to the point where it's undeniable. But I do understand why people drag their feet, or they would rather not, because they're conditioned to think that way. You know what I mean? So I just think that what you're doing provides such a beautiful service, because it does help bridge that gap, and provide credibility to the symbolic nature of the occult, and every aspect of the ultimate agenda, and the sacrifices and the rituals that they're attempting to pursue and exercise on a daily basis. And we're all just kind of caught up in the mix. And I described it on the Biblical Hitman the other day. Like, I think it was on that show. I don't remember what it was on. Maybe it was the Cult Rejects. I don't remember. But either way, I said, basically, we're all like children, like essentially from the Big Lebowski, when Walter explains Donnie as being a child who wandered into the middle of a movie theater and is attempting to figure out the plot. And that's really kind of how I feel we are at this moment. We're all waking up with this naive veil firmly in place, that we're attempting to at least find our way into the ability of piercing through that veil, and disclosing for ourselves what is true and what is not. And anyway, buddy, thank you so much, man. DoeNut, let's do this again for real, dude. And I hope you had a good time. And beyond that, man, I appreciate you as always. And the bro was the best. And yeah, we are biologically related. So fuck off. You know
Shout
what I'm saying?
out to Be Real.
Yeah, exactly. Shout out to Be Real. Yeah. But anyway, man, nothing but love, you guys. God is love, says happiness, health, and prosperity, brothers. Hell yeah. Yeah, he's cool as hell. I met him at Bro Grove as well. Good people. Nothing but good people there. So thanks again, DoeNut. We're gonna get out of here. Yeah, you guys probably know Already Dead tonight. Comment, Mama, I just saw you ask. Jose's on vacation, so more than likely I'm just gonna have to kind of get things in order. I think on Friday I'm going to do a live stream with Brad Binkley on Epstein. We'll specifically talk about Epstein, so that'll be fun. But beyond that, nothing but love to all of you guys. You know this. You all can support my work at the Underclass Podcast and patreon.com/the Underclass Podcast. Best place to support me. Anyway, anything else, DoeNut?
Much love and God bless you.
Hell yeah, brother.